Chapter 568. Xianmen Tianzong's direct disciple against Taishu Temple's direct disciple, and both of them were beautiful girls. Bai Shiqian still looked weak and frail at this moment, making people think that the scene of her wielding the chaotic sky-shattering whip and executing the chaotic sky 8 styles was a complete illusion. It was a strange and twisted feeling, but there was a different kind of harmony. At this moment, Bai Shiqian still had that soft and weak look, which almost made people think that the scene of her wielding the chaotic heaven-shattering whip and displaying the chaotic heaven 8 styles was a complete illusion. It was a strange and twisted feeling, but there was a strange kind of harmony. A martial arts cultivator's vigor and vigor are like the rising sun. If she was able to conceal her own vigor before she attacked, then how could she still look so weak after using such a fierce and domineering martial arts mystique? Someone was surprised. Slowly, someone beside him said, "This is the mystery of the void yin-yang Dao and chaotic sky 8 styles. It's similar to the withering glory Zen practiced by Buddhist cultivators. Buddhist cultivators hide endless vitality under the appearance of withered leaves. Taishu Temple's martial arts mystique, on the other hand, hides the incomparably masculine vitality and explosive strength in the body of a weak willow. The more delicate she looks, the more powerful her physical strength will be when she attacks. This Bai Shiqian has already mastered the essence of martial arts mystique. It's just that her appearance doesn't reveal any clues, which makes people subconsciously ignore this possibility. After all, there are other mystiques in the void yin-yang Dao that aren't as fierce. Bai Shiqian attracted attention because of the sharp contrast, but once the fight started, her elegance was immediately overshadowed by another person. The red-haired girl who was like a burning flame attracted everyone's attention with her more domineering and unyielding style than Bai Shiqian. Facing Bai Shiqian's attack against attack, Yu Hongyan completely ignored her. The dragon demon halberd in his hand chopped down at Bai Shiqian's head, intending to cut her in half. Fellow Taoist use fierce killing intent. Bai Shiqian was not moved. Her delicate body trembled slightly in the air as she waved the chaotic sky-shattering whip. With this tremble, it was as if his entire body had disappeared into the void, and his figure was difficult to capture. Bai Shiqian's position did not change, but everyone present had a feeling that Bai Shiqian was no longer in the same place. If Yu Hongyan didn't change his move, he would only fail. The emptiness and brightness circulation was the divine art of the Taishu Temple, mainly used for body movements and escape techniques. It was one of the few in the world. It was a divine art that could move through the void for cultivators below the Yuanying stage. It was as famous as the lesser swords of the Shu Mountain Sword sect. Inside the Taishu Temple, it was also a top-notch escape divine art. It was not inferior to the ascending heaven art that Shitiani had used back then. What was even more mysterious was that although Bai Shiqian had used the emptiness and brightness circulation to escape from Yu Hongyan's attack range, her huge iron whip that was smashing down on Yu Hongyan's head was not affected in the slightest. It continued to strike towards Yu Hongyan with the momentum of the sky collapsing. It seemed like a method of mutual destruction, but in reality, Bai Shiqian had taken the first step and placed herself in an invincible position. But at this moment, Bai Shiqian suddenly felt that her body, which had escaped into the void, was forcibly frozen in place. Her originally agile body seemed to have been sucked in by something, and she was unable to move flexibly. She was slightly taken aback. She saw that at the tip of Yu Hongyan's demonic dragon halberd, the space seemed to be distorting. Everything in the surroundings seemed to be revolving around the tip of the golden halberd, and finally converging at a point. This point was extremely heavy, so heavy that the space around it seemed to be collapsing towards it. It was like a black hole. It was this black hole, which could even distort and devour space, that forcibly sucked out Bai Shiqian's body, which had already escaped into the void while she was using the emptiness and brightness circulation. Yu Hongyan's void-shattering divine spear. After she formed her gold core, this divine ability had made great progress, and it had become even more domineering. Under the effect of the black hole, not only was Bai Shiqian unable to escape from Yu Hongyan's attack range, but the distance between them was also pulled closer. If this continued, she would be the first to be attacked by Yu Hongyan. Bai Shiqian immediately deduced this. Her eyes flickered slightly, and the power of the demon-shattering divine whip that she swung became even more powerful. One yin and one yang, two opposing yet harmonious forces, erupted from the huge jet-black iron whip at the same time, causing the demon-shattering divine whip to produce a huge suction force. Different from the spatial collapse caused by the void-shattering divine spear, this was formed by the intertwining of two powerful forces, one yin and one yang. Like a rotating millstone, it sucked in everything that came close to it and crushed it into pieces. At this moment, Yu Hongyan also felt that his movements had become slow, and he was being dragged towards the demon-shattering divine whip by a powerful force. It was as if he was stuck in a quagmire, and it was extremely difficult for him to dodge. Not only was Yu Hongyan not afraid, but his eyes lit up, and he cheered, "Good." Facing such a fierce attack, Yu Hongyan did not have the slightest intention of retreating or defending. Instead, he pushed his strength to the extreme and continued to attack. The word retreat did not exist in her dictionary. She only knew how to attack, and attack. Bai Shiqian frowned slightly, and her expression finally changed. The powerful force contained in the demon-shattering divine whip in her hand erupted in advance, and the big iron whip swung horizontally, colliding heavily with the demonic dragon halberd. Boom! It was as if a piece of space had exploded. Just the sound waves alone spread in all directions, causing many of the spectators with lower cultivation to feel dizzy, and they almost fell to the ground. Everyone was shocked, and they retreated one after another, afraid that they would be caught in the aftermath of the battle. The cultivators with higher cultivation also had solemn expressions, and they were shocked by such a violent collision of power. It originated from a battle between two young girls with profound martial arts and extremely powerful physical strength. The first round of the battle between the two sides was actually so dangerous. A slight mistake would cause one of them to bleed on the spot, and they might even die together. After one move, the two sides fought with speed, and in an instant, they continued to fight for many rounds. It was as if two female dragons in human form had swept across the entire field. Although it is a draw for the time being, that Xianmen Tianzong's Yu Hongyan is only at the early stage of the golden elixir, right? The disciples of Xianmen Tianzong are known to be invincible in the same realm, but before that, they were competing with the descendants of other forces. This time, their opponent is the direct disciple of the Taishu Temple, and she can actually fight against the late stage of the golden elixir with the early stage of the golden elixir. It is really amazing. The spectators exclaimed in admiration. Even some of the Yuanying stage cultivators looked solemn. The strength that Bai Shiqian had displayed at the moment was already enough to fight against the ancestors of the Yuanying stage, and she was even stronger than some of the weaker early stage Yuanying stage ancestors. And Yu Hongyan was even more amazing. In the early stage of the golden elixir against Bai Shiqian, he did not seem to be at a disadvantage at all. What was even more noteworthy was that Yu Hongyan's attacks with the demonic dragon halberd were becoming faster and faster, but her expression was becoming more and more relaxed. In reality, Yu Hongyan was indeed becoming more and more relaxed as she fought. In her view, although the opponent in front of her had vigorous magic power and powerful divine abilities, the pressure that he gave her was not even as great as the middle stage golden elixir avatar of Marquis Jing Huan in the void battlefield. There was no other reason than that Bai Shiqian, who had always been cultivating in the depths of the mountains, could not raise the unparalleled momentum and powerful will that Yu Hongyan and Marquis Jing Huan, who had fought through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. For a martial artist, this was the most important thing. Unless the difference in strength was so great that it could be crushed, a martial artist who only relied on their own hard work would never be able to defeat a true warrior who had fought through hundreds of battles. The difference in experience and will between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. Bai Shiqian's expression was calm. She and Yu Hongyan were equally aware of the subtle changes in the battle situation. She knew her own problems better than anyone else. Shiqian heard that fellow Taoist you had a master before, what's the situation now? In the process of fighting, Bai Shiqian suddenly opened her mouth. Do you still keep in touch? If you meet now, what would the scene be like? Yu Hongyan's body abruptly froze, her movements also slowed by half a beat. All sorts of memories of her time with Zhang Lai in the past floated up in her mind. The scene in her memory finally froze in that endless, boundless sea of azure fire that filled her field of vision. In the sea of fire, the people of the Society of the Strong Gale who were together day and night, like family, all turned to ashes. Men and women, old and young, not a single one was spared. In the azure fire, a young man was smiling at her. This scene was forever engraved in the bottom of Yu Hongyan's heart, like a nightmare. Whenever she thought of it, it would make her feel as if she was drowning. Yu Hongyan's movements were slow, but Bai Shiqian's hands were not slow at all. The chaotic heaven demon shattering whip drew an arc in the air, like an angry dragon swinging its tail, heavily lashing towards the red-haired girl. Yu Hongyan's movements only froze for an instant, and then he very quickly reacted. But right now he had already lost the initiative, helplessly he could only block with his halberd. With a clang, Yu Hongyan's demonic dragon halberd was directly shaken off course by the chaotic heaven demon's shattering whip, his body instantly losing its cover. And right now Bai Shiqian stepped forward, quickly closing in, practically sticking close to Yu Hongyan's body. Her empty left hand already grasped the opportunity, her index and middle fingers stretched out separately, stabbing towards Yu Hongyan's cheek with the momentum of two dragons playing with a pearl. Right now her originally tender and delicate fingers completely changed appearance. Her index finger was jet black, yin qi soaring to the heavens, her middle finger snow white, threatening yang qi. The two fingers respectively unleashed two completely different concepts of power, yin and yang. Striking out at the same time, opposing yet unified, exceptionally sharp. But right at this moment, Bai Shiqian's gaze met with Yu Hongyan's, her heart abruptly sank. Because she discovered that Yu Hongyan, who was originally at a disadvantage because he was distracted by a move and was in danger, did not panic or fear, nor was he upset over his previous mistake. A pair of crimson-red pupils incessantly burned like a raging fire, making one's heart palpitate. The angrier this person is, the scarier he is. Just as this thought surfaced in Bai Shiqian's mind, she heard Yu Hongyan say coldly, "As a martial artist, you are still far from being a martial artist." With that, Yu Hongyan stomped both feet on the ground, his left fist retracted to the side of his waist, holding a stake. With both feet on the ground trembled slightly. His entire body seemed to be rooted in the thick and heavy earth, becoming one with the ground, and his aura became vigorous and steady. The momentum of the punch made him instantly become like a pillar that supported the heavens, like a towering mountain that would never fall. And while his fist that was retracted to the side of his waist, although he did not throw a punch, was filled with a destructive explosive power, as if there was a series of thunderclaps from the 9 heavens. Chapter 569. Tut! With a shout, Yu Hongyan's voice was like thunder. All the acupoints in her body emitted explosive sounds. Her originally slender figure seemed to expand, transforming into a giant god that stood proudly between heaven and earth. Inherited from Lin Feng, the 8-trigram sky-collapsing hammer. Her left fist, which was kept at the side of her waist, suddenly punched out, causing the mountains and rivers to change color as it met Bai Shiqian's yin-yang double-finger attack head-on. If before the punch, the vibrations in Yu Hongyan's acupoints were like rolling thunder, then the punch now was like an earth-shattering explosion. Bai Shiqian was caught unprepared. Her index and middle fingers collided with Yu Hongyan's iron fist, and 2 of her fingers were almost broken. The second wave of attack that followed closely behind the yin-yang double-finger attack, the demon-shattering whip of chaotic heaven drew a mysterious trajectory in the air, already attacking Yu Hongyan domineeringly. But now, because of the first wave of attack, it was also affected. On the other hand, Yu Hongyan took advantage of the situation to turn the tables. The demonic dragon halberd, which had already been pushed to the outside, swung and transformed into a roaring, strange golden dragon silhouette that charged towards Bai Shiqian. In an instant, the situation was reversed. Bai Shiqian was at a disadvantage, and Yu Hongyan's halberd attack had penetrated her abdomen. It looked like he was about to break through the enemy's nest. The gentle smile on Bai Shiqian's face disappeared completely, replaced by an extremely solemn expression. Her empty left hand was like the spring breeze, extremely gentle and light, as if it could not withstand any force. A thick wave of yin qi gathered, forming a cyclone with the movement of Bai Shiqian's left hand. And her right hand waved the demon-shattering whip of chaotic heaven again. The domineering power was pushed to the extreme, exploding and forming a yang qi vortex. One on the left, one on the right, one on the yin and one on the yang, the two cyclones began to compress towards the center. The two cyclones rotated in opposite directions, clashing against each other continuously. An extremely terrifying force was born from within, pressuring Yu Hongyan's demonic dragon halberd to the point that it was difficult for it to advance even an inch. Bai Shiqian's body was surrounded by two streams of magic power, one black and one white, that looked like a real dragon, and they fused into the yin-yang cyclone, making the power even stronger. That was not all. Bai Shiqian's hands did not stop moving. Her left hand did not stop moving, and her right hand did not stop waving the demonic shattering whip. Wave after wave of powerful magic power emerged and turned into cyclones, fusing with the magic power from before. More and more yin and yang dharma power merged into it. Gradually, the heaven and earth seemed to be separated, turning into two parts, one above and one below, with Yu Hongyan in the middle. The two discs rotated in the opposite direction like a giant millstone, about to grind everything in the center into powder. Life, space, time, matter, soul, magic power, spiritual qi, everything was grinded away, leaving nothing behind. The streams of yin and yang qi seemed to push the millstone again and again, continuously increasing the twisting power. The growth of the power seemed to be endless, as if there was no limit. With yin and yang as the pushing force, with the heaven and earth as the millstone, it crushed everything. Taishu Temple's void yin-yang Dao's top magic power, yin-yang grind, heaven and earth grind. The onlookers, including the Yuanying stage cultivators, all had a change of expression when they saw this magic power. This was similar to the devil subduing technique, a magic power that had almost become a legend in Taishu Temple. It was a magic power that should not have appeared in the Golden Elixir period. Its appearance was equivalent to cheating, and it made it difficult to determine the outcome of the battle. Even if it was used by a Yuanying stage cultivator, it would be enough to shock everyone's eyes. The cultivation difficulty was proportional to the power. Even in a place like Taishu Temple where geniuses gathered, very few people could master it. At this moment, everyone was certain that it was not just the difference between the Golden Elixir stage and the Golden Elixir stage. Bai Shiqian's strength was indeed above Ding Ruanfeng's. Even if Ding Runfeng had a pure yang body, even if he was successful in cultivating the pure yang mystic heart technique, even if he had the ability, he could not fight with the Hell Dao's Yuanying patriarch with his array formation. However, when Bai Shiqian's yin-yang grind, heaven and earth grind was used, it was clear who was stronger between the two. Once this magic was used, the almost irreversible power directly crushed Yu Hongyan's attack. Bai Shiqian looked at Yu Hongyan silently. You are very strong. Really, really strong. In a one-on-one battle of martial arts, Shiqian is indeed not your match. Actually, Shiqian has not completely mastered this magic, so I hope that the master of the Mystic Gate has prepared a protective treasure for you. Otherwise, you might die, because Shiqian is not confident that she can hold back. Yu Hongyan smiled brightly. Although the bones in her body were creaking from the opponent's magic, her fighting spirit was even higher. In such a dangerous situation, Yu Hongyan's choice was still not to retreat or dodge, nor did she passively defend. Her choice was still to fight the opponent's attack with an attack. The red-haired girl shook the demonic dragon halberd in her hand and drew a big circle in the air, as if she was lifting a heavy object. With an extremely ingenious technique, she deflected the first wave of attack from Bai Shiqian's heaven and earth grind to one side. Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw this scene, and they cheered in unison. Although her fighting style was always to press forward, Yu Hongyan was extremely well-rounded when it came to fighting techniques. She could be big and bold, but she also had no shortage of small and delicate moves. Yu Hongyan stared coldly at Bai Shiqian in front of her. If this was in the past, I might have lost my cool if you mentioned Zhang Lai in front of me. But now, everything is different. If I meet Zhang Lai now, there will only be two outcomes. I will kill him for revenge, or he will kill me to eliminate the root of the problem. Just like my battle with you right now. Either you kill me, or I kill you. As she spoke, the demonic dragon halberd in Yu Hongyan's hand danced faster and faster. The terrifying endless hellish aura also spread out, flashing with a red light. A mist-like storm swept out, and within the crimson mist, the faint shadow of a purplish gold dragon could be seen dancing. Seeing the endless hellish aura, the surrounding people hurriedly retreated in fear. The storm that seemed like endless hellish aura made everyone feel fear in their hearts. Only a few Yuanying stage experts did not retreat. It was just the aftermath of the attack, and it did not affect them. However, when they saw Yu Hongyan's terrifying attack that kept sending Bai Shiqian's worldly grindstone flying, their expressions turned grave. The red-haired girl in front of them had fine control over her power, and she was able to respond to the ever-changing battle situation in a timely manner. Apart from her rich experience, she also had an innate intuition, as if she was born to fight. It was not that the yin-yang grindstone was not strong enough, but in terms of battle talent, the gap between Bai Shiqian and Yu Hongyan was too big. Even a 3-year-old child with a sharp blade would not be able to defeat an unarmed adult. In the distance, an inconspicuous black-clothed youth calmly watched Yu Hongyan, who seemed to be dancing in flames in the battle situation. He nodded slightly. "Hong Yan, you are becoming more and more dazzling after becoming the disciple of the Celestial Gates Master." He chuckled, "However, it is impossible for you to kill me now. Of course, you have the protection of the Celestial Gates Master, so I won't go looking for you." The black-clothed youth's eyes drooped down, appearing ordinary and unremarkable. He was just an ordinary golden elixir period cultivator, and not his original body. "However, Hong Yan, there will be a day when we meet again." His figure disappeared without a trace. On the battlefield, Yu Hongyan seemed to have a flash of lightning in her mind. However, it disappeared in a flash, as if it was an illusion. "Tut!" Yu Hongyan let out a soft shout. She was extremely focused on the battle, immediately eliminating all distracting thoughts. However, the dragon demonic halberd in her hand danced even more rapidly, drawing out a profound trajectory and breaking through Bai Shiqian's heaven and earth grindstone once again. Time and time again, as she dispelled Bai Shiqian's attacks, Yu Hongyan also continuously accumulated and increased her own strength. The strength of each attack did not dissipate. Instead, it continuously stacked up and accumulated into the next attack. It was like a tide, continuously accumulating. Under the stimulation of the boundless baleful aura, it gradually turned into a towering tsunami. In the end, the great halberd in Yu Hongyan's hand trembled. As red light flashed, a resplendent splendor burst forth, as if a star had exploded. Seamless killing techniques. 3 divine spear stances, 3rd spear, meteor. Although in Yu Hongyan's view, Bai Shiqian's strength might not be comparable to Marquis Jinghuan's clone, the red-haired girl's style was that of a lion hunting a rabbit. She would also use her full strength. A dead enemy was a good enemy. The meteor spear, which was even more powerful than the rising sun spear that had previously defeated Marquis Jinghuan, was also Yu Hongyan's strongest martial arts divine ability. The yin-yang grindstone was extremely powerful, but it also had a twisting core axis. At this moment, Yu Hongyan had accurately grasped this vital point and launched her strongest attack. "If I were a primordial spirit, I could even destroy a real star with a single strike." At this moment, even though Yu Hongyan's cultivation was only at the golden elixir period, his violent strength directly pierced through the void. The heaven and earth grindstone, which had been propelled by Bai Shiqian's yin-yang magic, collapsed. Space was like a painting that had been torn down the middle, with the top and bottom being staggered. The distorted visual effect made one feel as if the world was spinning. Bai Shiqian let out a muffled grunt, blood spurting from her mouth. Her abdomen had been stabbed by Yu Hongyan's halberd. A piece of precious jade lit up with a dazzling light, firmly blocking the demonic dragon halberd's sharpness. If not for this, Bai Shiqian's body would have immediately been pierced by Yu Hongyan. But even so, Yu Hongyan's spear did not stop. It directly sent Bai Shiqian flying into the air. It looked as if he had pierced through Bai Shiqian and hung her on the tip of the halberd. For a moment, the white-clothed girl was left in an endless sorry state. Her demeanor and bearing had all become a joke. The surrounding people stared at this scene dumbfoundedly, only feeling incredulous. The yin-yang grindstone, heaven and earth grindstone, was broken. Taishu Temple's direct disciple, a golden elixir late-stage disciple, actually lost against Xianmen Tianzong, a golden elixir early-stage disciple. Stop! After recovering from his shock, Ding Runfeng flew into a rage. He wanted to rescue Bai Shiqian, but someone was faster than him. The sky above his head split open, and a huge hand formed by the gathering of white clouds covered the sky, pressing down on Yu Hongyan. At the same time, the void behind Yu Hongyan broke open, and streams of purple qi appeared, also forming a palm, facing the huge white cloud palm in the sky. Yu Hongyan no longer had anything to worry about, and a dazzling white light shone on top of his head. In the center of the white light was a shining crown. With the power of the golden crown of the demon and deity, Yu Hongyan's power became fiercer and fiercer. The demonic dragon halberd in his hand let out a shrill cry, and the silhouette of a strange golden one-horned dragon appeared. Chapter 570. Yu Hongyan's meteorite spear became more and more ferocious under the power of the two Yuanying magic tools. It directly smashed Bai Shiqian's protective light, and then sent the girl in white flying. Blood gushed out in midair, and the white dress was stained red. Yu Hongyan directly stabbed a huge bloody hole in Bai Shiqian's waist and abdomen. It was extremely miserable. After the giant white palm collided with the giant purple palm, it shrank back and supported Bai Shiqian's flying body. Even with the protection of the white cloud, Bai Shiqian kept coughing up blood. It seemed that she was exhaling more air than she was inhaling, and her pupils began to become dull. The void shook, and Xianlin Taoist slowly walked out of it. The thousands of emotions in his eyes had faded away, leaving only calmness, as if all things in creation had returned to nirvana. Ding Runfeng silently retreated behind him without saying a word. Lin Feng's figure appeared in the void at the same time, looking at Xianlin Taoist with a calm face. The battle between Yu Hongyan and Bai Shiqian, both sides' martial arts and magic arts, were extremely fierce and violent. Lives were often lost. It was really like an old saying in the secular world, swords and spears have no eyes, and life and death are up to the heavens. Neither side would be merciful, otherwise, they would be the ones to die. Xianlin Taoist looked at Lin Feng silently, and just as he was about to speak, he suddenly frowned and turned to look in another direction. That was the direction of the Shi family's mansion in West Hill City. Xianlin Taoist took Ding Runfeng and Bai Shiqian with him, turned and stepped into the void, disappearing. Yu Hongyan, Li Yuanfang, Luo Qinggu, and Jun Zining saluted Lin Feng together. Lin Feng did not waste any more words. He gathered everyone together and disappeared. In a split second, the two parties fighting at the lakeside disappeared, leaving only the onlookers looking at each other. Everyone could see the shock in each other's eyes. No one had expected that Bai Shiqian would lose to Yu Hongyan even though she had displayed such strength. The few Yuanying elders looked at each other and said, although Bai Shiqian doesn't have much experience in fights of magical powers, her divine arts are strong and her arcane energy is vigorous. Even we would have a headache fighting her. Who knew that this Yu Hongyan would be even more ferocious? Let her continue to grow. Her future is limitless. At the Baron Sea Assembly, Yu Hongyan won first place among the Foundation Establishment disciples and began to stand out. He entered the eyes of others, but because he was only at the Foundation Establishment stage at that time, he was not that eye-catching. Today, when he defeated Bai Shiqian, the successor of the Taishu Temple, who was at the late stage of the Golden Elixir Realm, at the early stage of the Golden Elixir Realm, Yu Hongyan became famous in the Divine Land. I'm really looking forward to the battle between the Shi brothers, someone said with a sigh. It's a pity that I didn't get to witness the battle between Wang Lin and Big Stone. It would have been even more exciting. Someone next to him looked in the direction of the Shi family's mansion in West Hill City. Just now, Xianlin Taoist seemed to be looking in that direction. That's the Shi family's mansion in West Hill City. Did something else happen? Indeed, something else happened. At this moment, a handsome young man with long black hair was standing in the front hall of the Shi family's mansion. He was surrounded by a group of people. The lowest cultivation among the people surrounding him was at the Golden Elixir period. There were many Yuanying elders, and there were many late-stage Yuanying cultivators. However, at this moment, they all had serious expressions and looked at the young man in front of them cautiously. The oppressive atmosphere almost caused the air in the hall to solidify. There was a faint haze of light flowing on the building of the hall. In the haze of light, there were flickering talisman symbols. That was the protective formation of the Shi family's mansion. It was ready to be activated. The young man was naturally Shi Tianhao. He was the little guy who was on his last breath after a disaster. He was protected by his parents and fought his way out of the encirclement. He had narrowly escaped death. Although everyone in the Shi family knew that he had been reborn, when he really stepped into the Shi family and stood in front of them again, everyone was silent. Some were embarrassed and guilty, some were sad and regretful, and some were terrified. At the same time, some were full of hostility. Shi Tianhao, don't forget that no matter who your master is, you have the blood of the Shi family flowing in your body. You are a descendant of the Shi family. As a junior, you have come to look for trouble. Even if your parents or your grandfather were here, they would teach you a lesson first and let you know what it means to respect your seniors. Shi Tianhao glanced at him indifferently. His body suddenly moved and his powerful physical strength exploded. Almost in an instant, he had already rushed in front of the early-stage nascent soul realm patriarch and sent him flying with a punch. The others were shocked and angry, but only the two late-stage Yuanying elders were able to react in time. Two golden dragon shadows flew out and cut through the space. The chaotic cauldron appeared behind Shi Tianhao. It turned into a black hole and directly swallowed the magic power of the two golden dragon shadows. The two late-stage Yuanying elders were furious. They wanted to continue attacking, but Shi Tianhao punched them and retreated to his original position as if he had never moved. His retreat was quite mysterious, and he instantly escaped the attack range of his opponents. Shi Tianhao stood with his hands behind his back. He looked calm as if what he had just done was insignificant. But the result was that the early-stage Yuanying elder was seriously injured by him. His magic power was completely scattered, and the Yuanying elder felt dizzy from the shock. His internal organs seemed to have changed positions, and he couldn't move at all. You didn't fight back then, so I spared your life today and rewarded you with a punch. This is to tell you not to be so rude next time, Shi Tianhao said indifferently. The Shi family's elders all gasped. They could see that Shi Tianhao really had the ability to kill the early-stage Yuanying elder with a punch. He had indeed shown mercy. But they couldn't take it lying down to be beaten up by such a grandson, or even a great-grandson. But when it came to a bloody battle, everyone couldn't help but think of the figure of a young man in purple. Strictly speaking, not many people in the Shi family had seen this person with their own eyes. But he was like a mountain above everyone's heads. Moreover, not long ago, the senior brother of the same sect as the youth before him, with a cultivation of the late Gold Core realm, had killed many nascent soul stage ancestors of the Yu clan, including 3 nascent soul stage experts. Who could guarantee that the Shi Tianhao in front of him wouldn't have the same magical powers? If that was the case, even the protective array of the house wouldn't be able to protect him. Only an essence soul cultivator could kill this young man who was only 13 years old. However, ever since they returned from raiding the Yu family's ancestral land, the Shi family's patriarch, a second firmament essence soul realm expert at the void reversion realm, Shi Wu, had maintained his silence. Even though the other members of the family were discussing the matter between the two stones and arguing about the Shi family's future, Shi Wu never expressed his opinion. Since Shi Wu didn't express his opinion, the Shi family's elders didn't dare to make things difficult for Shi Tianhao. Moreover, there were also people in the Shi family who sympathized with Shi Tianhao's plight. Shi Tianhao didn't pay attention to the crowd's reaction. He looked calmly at a middle-aged man in front of him. The middle-aged man was tall and handsome. His eyes contained a hint of sharpness. He stood in the middle of the crowd. Although he wasn't the oldest among the Shi family's elders, his cultivation base was already at the late stage of yuanying. Most people seemed to regard him as the core of the group. If one looked closely, they would discover that his appearance was at least 70% similar to that of the dual-pupiled Shi Tianyi. The middle-aged man looked at Shi Tianhao calmly. Tianhao, it's rare for you to return home, but it's a little inappropriate for you to quarrel with your family. You've suffered a lot over the years, but you should know the most basic etiquette when you become the disciple of the Celestial Gate's master and receive his teachings, right? Uncle, you must be joking. Shi Tianhao said silently, I, Xianmen Tianzong, naturally pay attention to etiquette, but the other party must also know etiquette. How my master teaches me has nothing to do with you. You just need to know one thing. As a disciple of my master, I respect everyone who respects me. As for others. Shi Tianhao smiled faintly. When friends come, there will be good wine. When wolves come, there will be knives and spears. It's that simple. The young man's eyes were full of vigor, but it was enough to make people shiver. In the past, you didn't treat my family as your own. Today, don't talk to me about blood relations. Today, I only came to take back what my parents and grandfather left here. I never said I wanted to return to the Shi family. However, I heard something else. Shi Tianhao looked at the middle-aged man. Uncle, you seem to be saying that the Shi family should rely on the Taishu temple and not make things difficult for me, Xianmen Tianzong? The middle-aged man was Shi Tianyi's father. He naturally supported his son. Just now, during the family gathering, he persuaded the others to stand firm and support the Taishu temple. The whole family eliminated all discordant voices and fully supported Shi Tianyi. In the past, although there were people who felt that Shi Tianyi's family was too bloody and dissatisfied, as Shi Tianhao and his family left, and Shi Tianyi rose step by step, the mainstream voice of the Shi family gradually leaned towards Shi Tianyi. But as Shi Tianhao was reborn, Xianmen Tianzong gradually became like the sun in the sky. The Yu family, which had always supported Shi Tianyi, was destroyed by Shi Tianhao's master and senior brother, and their ancestral land was destroyed. More and more Shi family members began to waver. When Shi Tianyi was blinded by Wang Lin, this wavering gradually reached its peak. Shi Tianyi had the support of the Taishu temple, and everyone still thought highly of him. Even if it was just the radical faction in the Taishu temple, it was a colossus that was not weaker than Shu Mountain or the Great Thunderclap temple, let alone the entire Taishu temple. But the strength of Xianmen Tianzong and Shi Tianhao couldn't be ignored. Although most people wouldn't really change their side, at least they began to lean towards a neutral position. The middle-aged man was naturally unwilling to accept this, so he held a series of family meetings and contacted the people with real power in the family. But because the family head Shi Wu's attitude was ambiguous, most people's attitudes also became vague, making the middle-aged man's connection seem to be limited. Just when he was feeling vexed, Shi Tianhao just happened to come at this time. Uncle, you are very concerned about me. Shi Tianhao tilted his head and looked at the middle-aged man with a smile that wasn't a smile. I don't know if Uncle is concerned about my current level of cultivation. Do you want to personally go and help that little brother of mine get a feel? Chapter 571. Shi Tianhao had a faint smile on his face, but there was an undisguised ferocity emanating from him. Ever since he was a child, he had often entered Yujing Mountain and the Kunlun mountain range. Although his purpose was to have a sumptuous meal, he had actually killed many fierce beasts. Only his master, Lin Feng, and the little one's senior and junior brothers knew that Shi Tianhao had even traveled to the southern border and entered Tianhuang wasteland through the realm crack. There, he had killed many demons, and his hands were stained with blood. Although he was young, he was used to seeing life and death. Including everyone in Xianmen Tianzong, Shi Tianhao's killing intent and ferocity ranked at the top. The brat was extremely ferocious. The Shi family's patriarchs could clearly sense the ferocity emanating from Shi Tianhao. The person he had sent flying just now did not attack his parents. When his parents came out of the void battlefield, that person did not participate in the interception. That was why Shi Tianhao had spared his life. However, among those present, there were people who had actually participated in the fight. When they met Shi Tianhao's gaze, even though they had lived for thousands of years, they felt a chill in their hearts. It was as if they were facing an extremely dangerous primordial beast. The pressure Shi Tianyi's father felt was even greater. After a moment of silence, a golden light suddenly lit up behind him. A dragon's roar resounded, and a white-scaled dragon emerged from the golden light. The white-scaled dragon's body flashed with golden light, and each golden light was as sharp as a blade, cutting the surrounding space into pieces. This was because he had directly revealed his Dharma idol. Little Tianhao, since you are so confident, I will spar with you. Let's see what you have learned from the master of the Celestial Gate. The two late-stage Yuanying patriarchs beside him were silent, but their dharmic powers were also fluctuating around them. Shi Tianhao smiled. Uncle, you are joking again. How can it be a simple spar between us? The young man's body moved violently, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of the other party. It's you who has to pay your debt. The heaven and earth Dharma idol in the form of a white-scaled dragon attacked Shi Tianhao, but Shi Tianhao ignored it. A black hole appeared in the void above his head. A violent beast's roar came from the chaos hole. It sounded like the wail of a baby and was extremely ear-piercing. The chaos hole furnace was filled with black soil, silent and silent. It was like a black hole that directly sucked in the white-scaled dragon. A shocking scene unfolded before the eyes of the Shi family. The chaotic hole furnace above Shi Tianhao's head was like an incomparably ferocious primordial beast. It opened its mouth wide and roared as it bit down on the opponent's Dharma idol. The white-scaled dragon's head and the front half of its body were bitten, and the back half of its body was struggling and twisting in the air. The dragon's tail swung back and forth, but it was unable to escape. The space in the hall was limited to begin with, and the white-scaled dragon controlled the space around it, preventing it from expanding to its original size. But now that it was trapped, it couldn't care less. It instantly expanded to a length of several dozen feet and swept across the hall. If it wasn't for the Shi family's protective array, the white-scaled dragon's tail would have been able to flatten the entire house. The dragon's body flashed with golden light, like an infinite number of sharp blades, cutting through the void. But it still couldn't do anything to Shi Tianhao. The Shi family's ancestors could even clearly see that not only was the white-scaled dragon unable to break free from the chaos hole furnace above Shi Tianhao's head, it was even being sucked in bit by bit. Everyone gasped. What kind of mystique is this? The white-scaled dragon was the Dharma idol of a late-stage Yuanying cultivator. It represented the crystallization of a late-stage Yuanying cultivator's magic power and was the strongest technique of a Yuanying cultivator. But now, it was about to be swallowed whole by Shi Tianhao. I think I saw the shadow of a Tao Tai in that furnace. This is the Tao Tai's devour heaven and earth mystique. But even a pure-blooded Tao Tai would need a late-stage demon king to have such a powerful devouring ability. But this Shi Tianhao is only at the late-stage golden elixir. The Shi family's Great White Dragon technique was born from the Great Qin dynasty's royal family's secret codex, the White Dragon Imperial Book, which was one of the 5 emperors' true dragon secret codex. The mystique, golden light, was invincible and could surpass tens of thousands of divine weapons in the world. It could be said to be a top-notch metal-type mystique. Even if a Tao Tai tried to devour such a mystique, it wouldn't be easy. This was because the magic power was too sharp and its attack power was too strong. But now, the white-scaled dragon was being sucked in by Shi Tianhao's chaos hole furnace and couldn't escape at all. Moreover, this wasn't Shi Tianhao's full strength. The chaos hole furnace was sucking in his opponent's Dharma idol, but his own movements weren't affected at all. He brazenly charged towards his opponent. The Dharma form of heaven and earth was restricted, so the difference between the late nascent soul realm and the middle nascent soul realm was not big. Therefore, when Shi Tianhao's physical strength was extremely strong, the late nascent soul realm Grand Elder had no chance to fight back. Although Shi Tianyi's father wasn't very old, his cultivation level was considered high in the Shi family. But at this moment, he was completely no match for Shi Tianhao. He let out a low roar and golden light surged from his body, turning into the shadow of a dragon. In the dragon's shadow, there was a strange-shaped seal that looked like a dragon's head. It was a Yuanying cultivator artifact, the Tai-Bai dragon seal. Shi Tianhao didn't even look at it. He reached out and grabbed it. His originally slender and pure white palm was instantly covered in a greenish-black color. All the blood vessels and tendons appeared and intertwined together. His fingers looked as thick as a door latch. His 5 fingers were like the claws of a demon king. He directly grabbed the Tai-Bai dragon seal and gripped it tightly. In an instant, the Yuanying cultivator artifact made a creaking sound. Too ferocious. This isn't the physical strength that a cultivator of the golden elixir period should have. The surrounding Shi family patriarchs were shocked. They could clearly feel the killing intent from Shi Tianhao's body. Although their positions were still wavering, they couldn't just watch as Shi Tianhao killed someone on the spot. The group of Yuanying cultivators immediately surrounded him. Don't get in the way. Shi Tianhao raised his other hand into a fist. You! A powerful force that filled the surrounding space directly froze everyone in place. All the cultivators below the Yuanying period spat out blood and were knocked down by Shi Tianhao's formula. The Yuanying cultivators understood the secret of space, so they could still resist. However, the next moment, Shi Tianhao's formula was also activated. The Yu and formula combined into one and swept across the entire area. All the early-stage Yuanying cultivators were also sent flying. And this was just the beginning. The bronze void cauldron appeared. Shi Tianhao grabbed the ecliptic bell hammer and hit it. The ripples in the space, combined with the Yu and formula, crushed all the cultivators below the late-stage Yuanying period. In the blink of an eye, except for Shi Tianyi's father, only the 2 late-stage Yuanying cultivators could still stand. They looked at Shi Tianhao in shock. This kid is simply a ferocious beast in human form. Motherfucker, everyone from Xianmen Tianzong is indeed a monster. And in this short period of time, Shi Tianhao's demonic claw-like left hand clenched once more. The Tai-Bai dragon seal in his palm let out a mournful cry. A Yuanying period artifact was forcefully crushed by Shi Tianhao's hand. The 2 late-stage Yuanying cultivators braced themselves and also revealed their respective Dharma idols. Shi Tianhao was unafraid. The void behind him twisted and a second chaotic cauldron suddenly appeared. But at this moment, the eyes of both sides suddenly flashed. Shi Tianhao's face was expressionless as he looked to the other side. There, the void shook, and a tall and straight youth slowly walked out. His face was calm, and his eyes were closed. He was the same as Shi Tianhao. His hair was not tied up and hung down his shoulders. Compared to Shi Tianhao, his aura was more profound and majestic. It was the dual-pupiled individual, Shi Tianyi. My good little brother, why are you so impatient? Shi Tianyi lightly said. Without opening his eyes, he stretched out his right hand. As the white clouds surged, endless rays of light appeared, turning into mysterious runes that floated in the air. A powerful force forcefully stopped Shi Tianhao's first chaotic cauldron, making it unable to continue devouring the white-scaled giant dragon. The suction force was suppressed. The white-scaled dragon twisted and struggled, wanting to break free from the cauldron. Shi Tianhao's expression did not change. Of course I'm anxious. I'm afraid that before our final battle, my senior apprentice brothers will inadvertently blind your other eye. As he spoke, the second chaotic cauldron behind him suddenly spat out a stream of air, directly cutting the white-scaled dragon in half. Shi Tianyi's father let out a miserable howl. That was his Dharma idol, but it had been directly cut in half by Shi Tianhao. A late-stage Yuanying cultivator's greatest strength and most precious treasure, the Dharma idol, had been directly destroyed. At that moment, Shi Tianyi finally opened his eyes. His left eye was nothing special, no different from the others. However, his right eye erupted with startling light. His gaze turned into a haze of light, filling the entire space. Divine light flickered in the haze of light as profound runes bobbed up and down, as if it was conjuring a world. Silently, Shirtiani said, "Since you can't wait any longer, I'll cut you down here first, and then I'll go find that Wang Lin. You won't have the chance to find my third senior brother." Shi Tianhao's expression was just as indifferent. After what had happened in their youth, the two young prodigies had finally met face to face, in person. "The Dragon Arena will open in 3 days. Don't tell me you can't even wait 3 days." The Qin Emperor Stonefeather's voice suddenly rang out. The space behind big and small rocks trembled slightly. Lin Feng and Xianlin Taoist strode out at the same time, staring at one another calmly. The leader of the Shi family, Shi Wu, had finally appeared as well, but he remained silent. Only his gaze moved between Shi Tianhao and Shi Tiani. Shi Tianhao smiled at Lin Feng first before looking at Shi Tiani and his father. His gaze lingered on Shi Tiani's father in particular. "Of course I can wait. The good stuff in the Dragonstone Gate is still waiting for me." Shi Tiani arrived beside his father and checked his wounds. His gaze became colder and colder. He turned to look at the tiny Shi Tianhao. "It's a pity that no matter how long you wait, Uncle Xiling won't appear in West Hill City to watch our battle. You injured my father, so I'll avenge him in the end. Even if my father is injured and has his Dharma idol destroyed, he can still watch our battle. I wonder where your father is right now." That was what Shi Tiani meant. Chapter 572. Shi Tianhao looked at Shi Tiani and tilted his head slightly. His gaze was fierce as he grinned. "In these 3 days, you'd better keep an eye on eldest uncle at all times. Otherwise, he won't be able to watch our match." His words were joking, but no one present could laugh. Everyone could feel an undisguised killing intent from him. More than 10 years ago, when Shi Tianhao and his family were banished, and not long ago, when Shi Tianhao's parents were ambushed, Shi Tiani's father was the leader. Hearing Shi Tianhao's words, the people who supported Shi Tiani felt depressed. No matter how shrewd Shi Tiani's father was, he also felt his face burning. However, everything that had happened just now had proven that Shi Tianhao's words were not false. When they met on a narrow path, his eldest uncle's life was really in danger. When some people saw that Xianlin Taoist and family head Shi Wu were present, their courage grew. However, just as they were about to reprimand Shi Tianhao, they saw Lin Feng standing in front of Shi Tianhao and had no choice but to swallow back their words. Lin Feng's gaze swept past Shi Tiani, and the light in Shi Tiani's right pupil immediately dimmed. The tall teenager with double pupils took a deep breath and lowered his eyelids, no longer saying anything. Lin Feng's gaze swept past him and turned to look at Xianlin Taoist. He said indifferently, "Don't play too many tricks. Not only will you lose your status for no reason, it's easy to lose more than what you gain." In all fairness, Lin Feng believed that Bai Shiqian and Ding Ruanfeng's actions were out of their own thoughts. With a status and identity like Xianlin Taoists, he would not have any thoughts about such small things. Even Bai Shiqian and Ding Runfeng might not have wanted to suppress Xianmen Tianzong's reputation from the start. They were just dissatisfied after hearing the words of the Hell Path's disciple and went with the flow. Unfortunately, they were not as skilled as others and ended up making a fool out of themselves, making Yu Hongyan, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qinggu more famous. Bai Shiqian was even crippled by Yu Hongyan. Her injuries were so severe that even Taishu Temple's resources could not heal her. Yu Hongyan's spear had not only opened a bloody hole in her body, it had also heavily injured her soul and even shattered her golden core. The fact that she was able to survive was because the Void Temple's methods were heaven-defying. However, for a heavenly lady like her, falling from the clouds to the mortal world was worse than death. Being stabbed to death by Yu Hongyan's spear was probably more satisfying. Xianlin Taoist's eyes were calm and almost dead. He stared at Lin Feng, from the beginning to the end, who has been playing tricks. Ever since you appeared in this world, your actions have been out of place and you are used to taking the unconventional path. Although your aura has gradually grown and become more stable, I can still see that you are eager to gain fame, even to the point of being eager for instant success. Xianlin Taoist looked at Lin Feng calmly. Although I don't know why you are doing this, I can be sure that there is a special reason that is pushing you to do this. Your current situation may seem glorious, but it is actually a boat sailing against the current. If you don't move forward, you will fall behind. You are a sore loser. Lin Feng's expression didn't change at all. He still looked calm and said, in life, who isn't a boat sailing against the current? Xianlin Taoist nodded and said calmly, what you said is true, so I won't talk nonsense with you about today's matter. Everything will be clear in 3 days. See you in 3 days. Lin Feng smiled faintly. The one who was beaten up was not his disciple, so he naturally didn't care. However, with Xianlin Taoist's usual domineering style, it was obvious that he had other considerations for letting it go so easily today. Lin Feng couldn't figure it out at the moment, but at his current stage, he needed to be the master. 3 days later, whatever tricks Xianlin Taoist and the others had, he would take it. Although this was the Shi family's territory, Shi Wu was clearly not the main character at this moment. Shi Wu also didn't have the slightest awareness of being the master, and he didn't say a word from beginning to end. Silently, he watched Lin Feng and Xianlin Taoist converse. Xianlin Taoist turned his head to look at Shi Tianyi and his son. He raised his hand and a white cloud enveloped them. With the nourishment of the cloud's mana, Shi Tianyi's father's complexion immediately improved a lot. At this moment, Shi Tianyi's eyes had completely retracted, but his gaze still fell silently on the tiny Shi Tianhao. Shi Tianhao was also looking at him. Seeing Shi Tianyi disappear from the mansion with Xianlin Taoist, he suddenly smiled and put his right hand in front of his neck, making a throat-slitting gesture at Shi Tianyi. Shi Tianyi's gaze flashed and became colder. He didn't say anything and disappeared with Xianlin Taoist. I originally came here to take back the things left behind by my grandfather and parents. Shi Tianhao shrugged and turned to look at Shi Wu. Back then, his family mainly lived in the mansion in West Hill City and not in the Shi family's ancestral land. Most of the things left behind by his parents and grandfather were gathered here, and fell into the hands of relatives who sympathized with their plight. Shi Tianhao glanced at the few Shi family members and said with a smile, we'll settle our scores in 3 days. I think you guys definitely hope so too. He had already investigated and knew clearly who had made things difficult for his family back then. The Shi family members were all silent. Of course, they hoped that Shi Tianhao would be directly dealt with by Shi Tianyi 3 days later. Do as you wish, Shi Wu said indifferently, cupped his hands at Lin Feng, turned around, and actually disappeared. Lin Feng looked at Shi Wu's disappearing figure and smiled. He didn't say anything and waited for Shi Tianhao to pack his things before leaving together. After leaving the Shi family's mansion, Lin Feng and his disciple walked calmly on the long street. Shi Tianhao seemed to have changed into a different person. He didn't say a word and only followed behind Lin Feng silently. Are you thinking about your family? Lin Feng didn't turn around and asked calmly as he walked. Shi Tianhao nodded and answered after a while, I didn't find anything in the void battlefield last time. I'm very worried about them. His emotions were still calm. This time, he brought the natal lights of his parents and grandfather with him. The fact that the natal lights were not extinguished meant that their lives were not in danger. When Lin Feng brought them back to Wang Lin and left the void battlefield, he threw the divine battle clone back into the void battlefield. Shi Tianhao was aware of this, so he was relatively calm. However, returning to the Shi family's mansion had stirred up his longing for them. As the master and his disciple walked, they turned a corner and saw a few people waiting for them. One of them was a young man wearing a purple robe with a white robe draped over it. He was Lin Feng's second disciple, Zhu Yi. Next to Zhu Yi stood a young man wearing a purple robe of the same style as Zhu Yi. He was also smiling at Lin Feng and Shi Tianhao. He was Lin Feng's fifth disciple, Yang Qing. On the other side of Zhu Yi stood a young lady in a yellow dress. When she saw Lin Feng approaching her, she bowed respectfully, Junior Shi Xingyun greets Senior Lin. Lin Feng smiled faintly and nodded, you may rise. Previously, when his boundless ocean emperor avatar was guarding Zhu Yi during his tribulation outside Tianjing city, Zhu Yi had already reported some things to him. While Zhu Yi was rushing to take the exam, Shi Xingyun happened to follow the diplomatic group to Tianjing city. Due to fate, when Zhu Yi killed Liang Yuan's advanced Yuanine cultivators, the two of them even worked together and completely destroyed Liang Yuan's evil organization that used Buddhism to gather incense and power of will. After the examination, Zhu Yi originally wanted to decline the appointment of the great Zhou dynasty, but who knew that the emperor of Zhou, Liang Pan, would give him an appointment in the Ministry of Rites, asking him to represent the great Zhou dynasty to pay a visit to the great Qin dynasty, as well as make friends through literature and interact with the literary circles of the great Qin dynasty. Therefore, Zhu Yi followed Shi Xingyun and the diplomatic group of the great Qin dynasty back to West Hill City. Naturally, the diplomatic group of the great Zhou dynasty also accompanied them. Liang Pan seemed to be doing them a favor at little cost. The diplomatic group of the great Zhou dynasty moved extremely quickly. As soon as the visiting members were confirmed, they set off without stopping. They finally arrived at West Hill City before the battle between Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi. Zhu Yi and the others arrived on the same day as Lin Feng and the others. They were slightly earlier. Before Lin Feng brought Shi Tianhao into the palace, Emperor Qin Shi Yu had just finished receiving the diplomatic group of the great Zhou dynasty. After greeting Lin Feng, Shi Xingyun looked at Shi Tianhao and sighed softly, "Tianhao, your parents will be proud of you." During the Wilderness Sea Assembly, Shi Xingyun had said this from the bottom of her heart. However, the meaning behind her words was different now. "You're too kind, Sister Xingyun." Shi Tianhao smiled. Shi Xingyun smiled gently when she heard how Shi Tianhao addressed her. She said softly, "Tianhao, you need to be careful. Shi Tianyi once entered the ancient domain of Sky Dragon when he was young. He's extremely familiar with the environment of the ancient domain and the dragon arena." Shi Tianhao nodded, "I know. Your father has already promised me that I can enter the ancient domain of Sky Dragon earlier to familiarize myself with the environment. Shi Tianyi spent an entire year in the ancient domain of Sky Dragon back then, while I didn't have that much time. However, it doesn't matter," Shi Tianhao said calmly, "it won't change the final outcome." Shi Xingyun said, "As long as you know what you're doing. Speaking of which, Sister Xingyun, you and my second senior brother." Shi Tianhao suddenly smiled. Shi Xingyun shook her head graciously, "It's not what you think. Honestly speaking, Brother Zhu Yi has benefited me greatly in terms of ways." Zhu Yi also shook his head and broke into laughter. He pointed at Shi Tianhao and smiled, "You're the only one who doesn't know what to do." Shi Tianhao snickered, "Don't say that, second senior brother. Even the first senior brother has brought Sister Zhen, back to the mountain. When are you going to carry one back too? What's there to compare?" Zhu Yi was both exasperated and amused. Yang Qing and Shi Xingyun looked at them from the side, smiling without saying a word. Now, only the tiny Shi Tianhao could make Zhu Yi, who had always been calm, see through him. Lin Feng also looked at his disciples with a smile. However, at this moment, his heart suddenly skipped a beat, and his lips curled into an undetectable smile. His gaze drifted in another direction. "They're finally here." Lin Feng sensed for a moment before frowning slightly, "But why is there only one?" Chapter 573. In the southern part of Xiling City, most of the people who lived here were ordinary mortals. There were not many cultivators. A figure flashed past in an alley. In the darkness, one could not see his appearance clearly. This person did not stop and continued walking in the alley. Slowly, he had an interested expression on his face, as if he was admiring the scenery of the streets in the city and experiencing the aura of the mortal world. However, his eyes kept flashing. His finger lightly brushed across the wall. When he passed by a tile, he paused for a moment and then left as if nothing had happened. In fact, there was a gray crystal in his hand. The crystal shattered and a faint aura of mana flashed past. Words and information were transmitted into this person's mind. "There is no need for you to care about other things. There is no need for you to take any special actions. There is no need for you to search for any secrets. There is no need for you to send any messages. Develop yourself properly and focus on seeking Tao. The key is to seek the opportunity to practice the orthodox core Tao techniques of Xianmen Tianzong. If there is anything you need help with, feel free to speak up and I will satisfy it. As he mulled over these words, this person's footsteps slowed down slightly. A bitter smile and confusion appeared on his face. Life on Yujing Mountain was leisurely and carefree, to the point that he had forgotten his origins and the mission he shouldered. Actually, isn't it better to just stay on the mountain and learn Tao and be a disciple of Xianmen Tianzong? He muttered to himself in his heart. Only a sigh rang out in the alley. It's just that my motives were not pure from the beginning. Can Xianmen Tianzong really tolerate me? How can it be so easy to escape the control of the great Zhou dynasty? After all, I am not alone in this world. I have no ties. What this man didn't know was that when he read the information in the gray crystal stone, in the depths of his soul, a tiny speck of purple gas, which looked like a speck of dust, also slightly swayed. It had also received the information transmitted by the crystal stone. In the distance, Lin Feng smiled. Wishful thinking is quite good. But how can it be so easy? The few second-generation disciples were directly brought to Xiling City and allowed to move around freely. Lin Feng had originally planned to catch them. From the looks of it, the person controlling this person was not of a low level. The person who came into contact with him was not a spy from the Great Zhou dynasty hidden in the Great Qin Empire's Xiling City, but a member of the Great Zhou dynasty's diplomatic group. It came directly from the heart of the Great Zhou dynasty. But very quickly, Lin Feng's brows furrowed slightly again. He had already confirmed the target of the nail that the Great Zhou dynasty had buried. But Yan Mingyue had once mentioned that Taishu Temple also had sand mixed in. Because this person hadn't been apprenticed to Lin Feng before, he couldn't find any clues from the system. However, Lin Feng had already locked onto his target based on the clues he left behind in his daily life. It was just that when he came to West Hill City this time, he hadn't made any movements. You're quite cautious. Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. Looks like they don't plan to activate this person in the short term. I'm afraid that even this spy doesn't know his mission and mission. In an ordinary house in West Hill City, under an old locust tree in the courtyard, two people sat opposite each other and drank together. Silently, they didn't say anything. Only when there was only wine left in the pot did one of them ask, "Let's not talk about how high the cultivation of the Master of the Celestial Gate is. Just from the few times this person has acted, it can be seen that he isn't a reckless person. Senior brother, will the spy that you've planted be seen through by him?" The person opposite him held a wine cup and gently swirled it. After drinking the remaining half cup of wine, he lightly said, "No. Even if the Master of the Celestial Gate searched his soul and memory, he wouldn't find anything because the spy doesn't know his mission. He doesn't even know of our existence. The spy only thinks that he's an ordinary disciple." He put down the wine cup and faintly smiled. "Now the time is not right, it's not time to activate it. Even if I do activate it, I won't make direct contact with him, but will influence him remotely through the spy's parents." The person who first spoke nodded. In other words, even if an order is issued, the spy will only think that it's the expectations and wishes of his parents. From the beginning to the end, he won't even know that he's working for us. The person sitting opposite gently leaned his body against the old locust tree, appearing very relaxed. That is the most ideal effect. What we can do is to eliminate all kinds of unknown interference factors. His eyes gazed into the distant sky, where the Shi clan's residence was. After a moment of contemplation, he muttered to himself, "The Void Yin-Yang Bell and the Supreme Formation Breaking Drum have been activated at the same time. Such a battle has only happened during the war between the two domains." After a night, in the early morning of the next day, Lin Feng and Shi Tianhao once again came to the inner palace of the Great Qin dynasty. According to the agreement, the Qin Emperor's stone feather would allow Shi Tianhao to enter the ancient Sky Dragon domain in advance to familiarize himself with the environment. After all, the dual-pupiled Shirtiani had once cultivated here for a year, so he was extremely familiar with the changes in the environment and the flow of spiritual qi. The dragon arena did not exist alone. Instead, it was a region of the ancient sky dragon domain. Within this region, the changes in the landscape and environment were extremely similar to the general environment of the ancient sky dragon domain. When Xiao Yan and Tao Yaoyao fought on the top of Yujing Mountain, the sword world set up by the flowing light sword Exalt was the battlefield. Xiao Yan had said that it would be easier for the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong to control the surrounding spiritual qi on Yujing Mountain, and he was not lying. By the same logic, Shi Tianhao had entered a completely unfamiliar environment, while Shi Tianyi had once cultivated here, which was equivalent to taking advantage of home ground. In a battle between experts, even the slightest difference could determine the final outcome. Although Shi Tianhao was confident he could defeat Shi Tianyi, he obviously did not mind increasing his chances of victory a little, which would make it a little easier for him when the time came. Although the time was limited, it was enough for him to play a very important role. The two sides had already agreed on this during the banquet last night, so the Qin Emperor Stonefeather opened the entrance to the ancient Sky Dragon domain as agreed and let Shi Tianhao in. Shi Tianhao would spend the next 3 days in there, quietly waiting for the day of the battle to arrive. After watching Shi Tianhao enter the ancient Sky Dragon domain, Lin Feng turned around and looked at the Qin Emperor Stonefeather calmly. "May I ask how the preparations are going on your side?" Stonefeather stood up from the dragon throne and his dignified, deep voice echoed through the hall of the imperial palace. "Sect Master Lin, please." With a flash of golden light, the scenery before the two of them changed. Lin Feng stood still, allowing Stonefeather's powers to take him to his destination. 5-colored light vaguely shot out from the dark space. True dragons could be seen roaming within the light, their might startling. White, green, black, red, and yellow, there seemed to be a long shadow within the 5-colored light, which could not be seen clearly. This was the second time that Lin Feng had seen this treasure, but he was still shocked. The insurmountable, indestructible aura that could suppress thousands of worlds, and the inextinguishable destiny of a supreme being was enough to make anyone raise their eyebrows in surprise. A creator-level magical treasure. Only a creator-level magical treasure could have such a powerful concept. Even if the treasure was still in an incomplete state, it was still frightening and superior to the vast majority of powerful magical treasures in the world. Such a treasure was not something that ordinary Mahayana, life transformation, or spirit-nurturing magical treasures could compare to. The light and shadow gradually dissipated, becoming clearer and clearer. Today, Lin Feng finally saw the true face of this super-magical treasure. It was a city wall that was difficult to measure in length, spanning hundreds of thousands of miles. The two ends extended deep into the void, and there was no end in sight. Standing there, it was as though a true dragon was entrenched there. Lin Feng thought of the Great Wall of 10,000 miles in his previous life, but the size of the earth could not be compared to the heaven primal world. The city wall in front of him could probably be called the Great Wall of 10,000 miles. Such a length was completely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. It could no longer be described as length in the general sense. Because there was no suitable analogy, this length became extremely abstract. This is the immortal dragon city. Lin Feng's eyes flickered slightly. After seeing it last time, although he could not see it as clearly as now, Lin Feng had a rough idea in his heart. After checking the system, he found the most likely target. The Immortal Dragon City was a creator-level magical treasure refined by the first human saint emperor of the Archean epoch, the founding emperor. In the Archean epoch, the demon race ruled over the heavens. It was the dark age of the human race. It was precisely from the founding emperor that the human race finally rose and stepped onto the path of resistance against the demon race. The Immortal Dragon City condensed the will of the founding emperor. My body is immortal, and I shall resist the violence of the demon race, protect my fellow human race for eternity, and not be bullied and oppressed. Unfortunately, along with the fall of the founding emperor in the process of fighting the demon race, the Immortal Dragon City wasn't able to achieve its full potential. Even though it was the foundation of a creation-grade magic treasure, it couldn't be completely refined. It was even to the extent that along with the death of the founding emperor, it was obliterated without a trace. Until tens of thousands of years ago, when the founding emperor of the Great Qin dynasty unearthed this treasure, and with the help of the ancient sky dragon domain and other opportunities, it finally established the foundation of the Great Qin dynasty. Since the founding of the Great Qin dynasty, a huge amount of resources had been invested in the hope of completely refining this treasure. However, this treasure could be said to have been plagued with disasters, and it had never been completely refined. In the recent war between the human race and the demon race, it was even seriously damaged. Now, after thousands of years of preparation, the immortal dragon city was finally restored again, and at the same time, it was gradually approaching perfection, and only the finishing touch was missing. And this was the reason why Emperor Qin Stonefeather asked Lin Feng for help. Lin Feng calmly looked at the immortal dragon city, and without saying any unnecessary words, he lightly pointed his finger between his eyebrows. Suddenly, a black and white mark appeared on his forehead, and a yin and yang blended taiji pattern appeared. From the taiji pattern, a clear light was emitted, and an incomparably fierce aura gushed out. Almost as soon as it came into contact with this aura, the immortal dragon city buzzed, as if the endless length of the city walls were simultaneously shaking. The power of the immortal indestructible and eternal protection immediately spread out, opposing the clear light. Feeling the aura of the immortal dragon city, the clear light surging from the taiji pattern on Lin Feng's forehead became more and more violent, as if a world-destroying demon god had awakened and let out a sky-shaking roar. Chapter 574. The black and white Tai Chi diagram on Lin Feng's forehead continuously spun, thousands of feet of cold light gushing out, illuminating half of the dark void into a terrifying green color. "Fellow Taoist, if you're ready then I'll make my move right now," Lin Feng said indifferently. Qin Emperor Stonefeather took a deep breath and didn't say a word. His mind merged with Immortal Dragon City, and the Immortal Dragon City's aura became even more majestic. The yin and yang symbol on Lin Feng's forehead shone with clear light, and a huge sword box emerged from within. The sword box opened, and an incomparably vicious aura came from within, as if it wanted to destroy the world. A giant sword slowly rose up from the sword case. Without saying anything, Lin Feng reached out and grabbed the sword hilt, pulling out the heaven-punishing sword that was filled with an astonishing evil aura. At this moment, more than half of the heaven-punishing sword's blade had been sharpened. Sword light flowed, and the blade seemed to be transparent. Although the back half of the blade was still rusted, just the might that the heaven-punishing sword displayed was already terrifying enough. Lin Feng controlled the heaven-punishing sword. With a wave of his hand, the clear light suddenly retracted, leaving behind only a bright light that streaked across the void like a meteor. But when this light lit up, everything in the world lost its color and fell into boundless darkness, like an abyss of destruction. Everywhere the sword light passed, all things were destroyed. Facing this world-destroying sword, Immortal Dragon City didn't dodge or evade, only activating all of its power. On the million-mile-long city wall, rays of light lit up. Within the light, there were countless figures standing shoulder to shoulder, facing the impending death and destruction together. Don't yield, don't give in, don't be afraid. They only wanted to protect everything behind them. Even if they died, they wouldn't lower their heads. Countless brave warriors stood on the Immortal Dragon City's city wall and let out a roar that shook the heavens. This roar seemed to make the world return to the ancient era when hope was born in the darkness, when the human race rose unyieldingly. That was a powerful intent of unity, gathering into the great momentum of the human Tao, and changing the world. Don't yield, rise up, be brave, be united, and protect your people. This was the lofty strength and will of humanity that had been passed down for millions of years. At this moment, it was stimulated to face the apocalyptic disaster together. Below the Immortal Dragon City, there were countless true dragon silhouettes. It was as if they were also shocked by this world-shaking and history-changing cry of the human race. They bowed down below the city walls and willingly supported and protected him. The heaven-punishing sword's sword light clashed with the Immortal Dragon City's power. Instantly, the entire world was stirred into a ball of chaos. All the spiritual chi and matter were annihilated. The space seemed to have been split into two different worlds by an invisible force. With the immortal dragon city as the dividing line, the side that was closer to the heaven-punishing sword was filled with nothingness and chaos. However, the other side remained the same and was not affected at all. The two sides fell into a stalemate. Neither side could do anything to the other. During this process, the rust on the heaven-punishing sword's blade was falling off in large swathes. Above Immortal Dragon City, at the very front of the city wall, at the front line of the heaven-punishing sword, there was also a figure gradually condensing. The light gradually turned into a human figure. His clothes weren't luxurious and were even simple and primitive. His appearance wasn't shocking and he looked very ordinary. He wasn't tall and could only be considered average at best. However, it was such a person that was filled with majesty and solemnity. It made people feel reverence and awe. They were subconsciously subdued by him and wanted to follow behind him. Lin Feng understood that this was the Qin Huang heroic spirit. In the immemorial era, the first human emperor was born. After the Qin Huang heroic spirit appeared, he didn't do much. He just stretched his arms towards the sky. At this moment, Lin Feng suddenly felt as if the entire universe shook. This feeling was mysterious and mysterious. If one's cultivation wasn't high enough, they wouldn't be able to detect it. It was as if the great Tao of heaven and earth was shaking. Following this shake, the Qin Huang heroic spirit suddenly disappeared, and the immortal dragon city shone brightly. Looking at that light, Lin Feng slightly narrowed his eyes. He felt as if his will had become sluggish under that light. Eternal glory, immortal God light. Lin Feng carefully felt the power in the light. Eternal, the extreme of time. Heaven and earth will be destroyed. Who can truly achieve eternal? However, bathing in this eternal glory, it is as if I have grasped the mysteries of eternal time. That mysterious power that can't be any longer and has no end. Under the eternal glory, even the heaven-punishing sword's sword light couldn't go any further. The heaven-punishing sword's power became fiercer and fiercer. The sword light was like a wave that bombarded the immortal dragon city. As for the immortal dragon city, it was like a reef in the sea, allowing the waves to submerge it. When the waves receded, the reef was still standing. Lin Feng revealed a faint smile. Under the eternal glory, anyone who is protected by the immortal dragon city will be immortal and will never be destroyed. Even if heaven and earth collapse, they will live in eternal time. Even if the power was enough to destroy it, it was as if it would forever stay intact. In the world and time, there wouldn't be any changes. Unless one could destroy the eternal glory, no power would be able to shake the immortal dragon city. Congratulations, Dao friend. This treasure's other abilities aside, just in terms of defense, it can be said to be number one in the divine land. Lin Feng smiled. He stopped attacking and put away the heaven-punishing sword. This peerless sword kept on shaking in his hand, as if it was unwilling to give up. Qin Emperor Stonefeather's figure appeared beside the immortal dragon city. He lightly touched the city wall. Even with his mental fortitude, his fingers were slightly trembling. For tens of thousands of years, the great Qin dynasty had always dreamed of refining the immortal dragon city. Several generations of emperors had put in a lot of effort, and now, he had finally succeeded. At the same time, the great Qin dynasty finally had its own creation-grade magic treasure. It wasn't a damaged one, not an incomplete one. It was a true creation-grade magic treasure that stretched across the heavens and tore through the sea of bitterness. However, Stonefeather quickly regained his composure. Instead, he looked deeply at Lin Feng. His gaze landed on the heaven-punishing sword that Lin Feng was holding upside down. Right now, 2/3 of the heaven-punishing sword's blade had already been completely sharpened. The swaying sword light was filled with ferocity and viciousness. The remaining 1/3 near the hilt was still covered in rust. As the current ruler of the immortal dragon city, Stonefeather's mind was completely connected to this creation-grade magic treasure. He could clearly sense that although the immortal dragon city had successfully blocked Lin Feng's heaven-punishing sword, it had to use the eternal glory Great Tao Mystique. The eternal glory was the supreme power of the immortal dragon city. Without activating the eternal glory, the immortal dragon city was actually on the verge of collapse under the increasingly powerful attacks of the heaven-punishing sword. Only when the refinement was successful and the eternal glory was it able to block the heaven-punishing sword. However, when he thought that Lin Feng had only sharpened 2/3 of the heaven-punishing sword, Stonefeather's heart sank. If the heaven-punishing sword was completely completed like the immortal dragon city, would the immortal dragon city still be able to block the heaven-punishing sword? Stonefeather had been emperor for thousands of years. For the first time, he did not dare to think too deeply about something. He composed himself and said calmly, "In terms of defense, I am also confident. The immortal dragon city can be called the number one in the heaven origin domain, but it is not the only one. The Haotian mirror of the Taishu temple is publicly recognized as the number one ultimate treasure in the heavens. It has both offense and defense, and its uses are endless. Although I believe in the immortal dragon city's defense, it is not easy to determine which is stronger compared to the Haotian mirror." Lin Feng nodded. Stonefeather's judgment was the words of wisdom and experience. It was not that he did not have confidence in himself. Although the Great Qin dynasty completely possessed its own creation-grade magic treasure, Lin Feng did not mind. The Great Qin dynasty currently had a very harmonious relationship with Xianmen Tianzong. Even if there was conflict, it was very far away. His help this time was also very beneficial to him. He had also comprehended the concept of eternal radiance. Of course, more importantly, the heaven-exterminating sword had successfully improved. Let alone Stonefeather, he was also looking forward to the day when the heaven-exterminating sword was completely completed. Lin Feng placed the heaven-exterminating sword back into the sword case. Just as he was about to seal it again, he saw a new change in the heaven-exterminating sword. Several dozen silver chains extended from the surface of the sword case, weaving and dancing in the air. A figure slowly condensed in the air, turning into a young girl. The silver chains wrapped around her body and instantly tightened, fixing the huge sword case on the young girl's back. However, this time, the sword case automatically shrank. Although it was still very large compared to the young girl's height, it was no longer like an ant carrying a mountain. The proportions were completely out of proportion. This young girl was the person Lin Feng had seen in the mysterious Heaven-Time Light Grotto Heaven, the one who carried the sword case and walked around the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree. As expected, she looks a little bigger. Lin Feng thought. He saw that the young girl in front of him with the sword case had already become 17 or 18 years old. Her eyebrows had completely matured, and her figure had also grown a lot taller. Her body was ramrod straight, and her entire body was like an unsheathed sword, revealing its sharpness. Even with the huge sword case on her back, she gave off a feeling that she could pierce through the clouds and slay the heavens. Her aura was oppressive. The young girl looked extremely beautiful, but she was expressionless and indifferent. She looked like a cold and exquisite doll. Lin Feng noticed that between her hair strands had actually become half black and half white, but the white hair did not show signs of weakness and aging. Mixed together with the black hair, there was instead a kind of concept of chaos and primordial chaos that had yet to open. After the young girl appeared, she stood behind Lin Feng with the sword case on her back. She did not say a word, but it was very obvious that she would follow Lin Feng's orders. This attracted Lin Feng's attention. According to his past experience, the sword spirit of the heaven-exterminating sword had no reaction to any external contact, including Lin Feng, who had refined it. The only response this sword gave to the outside world was destruction and slaughter. As the refinement of the magic treasure becomes more mature, the magic treasure's origin spirit has finally changed? Lin Feng thought. Silently, Stonefeather also looked at the young girl with the sword on her back, his calm eyes faintly carrying a hint of inquiry. Lin Feng coughed dryly. "This is my sword servant. Her name is Xianli." Chapter 575. Silently, the girl stood behind Lin Feng. She neither objected to Lin Feng's naming nor did she respond. She just stood there silently with the sword case on her back. Qin Emperor Stonefeather stared at Xianli and pondered in his heart, this ominous sword of his is indeed extraordinary, but I can't see through its grade. Although it was a Mahayana grade magic treasure, Xian Li's magic treasure Yuan spirit seemed to have yet to gain sentience. But if it was below the Mahayana grade, first of all, it would not be so powerful. Secondly, Xianli gave off a complete and transparent aura of life that could exist independently from the heaven-exterminating sword. It was definitely not something a spirit-nurturing or transformation-grade magic treasure's Yuan spirit could compare to. In terms of power, it was more like a creation-grade magic treasure. Although it had not been completely refined, it was already showing off its power. But for a creation-grade magic treasure, the Yuan spirit did not have a real-life form. It gradually turned into an existence like the will of creation and did not often appear. Even the immortal dragon city would not appear in human form before the refinement was complete. These thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind, but he did not show it on his face. He calmly discussed Dao with Emperor Qin Shiryu. Stonefeather naturally did not ask much either. Like a normal cultivator, he conversed and discussed Dao techniques with Lin Feng. In all fairness, exchanging Dao arts with Stonefeather, Lin Feng gained quite a bit. But he very quickly discovered another troublesome matter. He called out to Xianli, but he could not make the girl disappear and return to the sword case. Xianli responded to all his other orders, but she did not respond at all when he told her not to show up. He really did not know if she could not do it or was unwilling to do it. Never mind, I've been holding it in for so long. I'll just let you relax. Lin Feng tried to find happiness amidst bitterness, thinking, it's just that from now on I'll have to bring an expressionless girl with me wherever I go, it's really too eye-catching. After bidding farewell to Emperor Qin Shiryu, Lin Feng took Xianli back to the place the Qin Empire had arranged for him to stay. Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others immediately surrounded them, while Xiao Zhen, Tunten, and the others curiously looked towards Lin Feng and Xianli. Master, did she come out of the mysterious heaven-time-light paradise? Xiao Yan looked strangely at the girl who followed closely behind Lin Feng. She looks so much older, Lin Feng lightly said, only you are allowed to grow up, but others are not allowed to change. She's been in the mysterious heaven-timeless sky utopia for a much longer time than you brats. He turned his head and looked at Xianli. This is Master's sword attendant, Xianli. Xiao Yan and the others frequently visited the mysterious heaven-time-light utopia, and they all knew that this girl had a close relationship with Lin Feng's heaven-punishing sword. The heaven-punishing sword's might was unparalleled, and they did not want to provoke Xianli. Everyone in the world knew about the battle between Big Stone and Little Stone. In the past 3 days, many people had rushed to West Hill City in hopes of watching the battle. There was no lack of primordial soul realm powerhouses among them. They were paying attention to the battle between the two rocks, but they were more concerned about the people standing behind Big Rock and Little Rock. According to the previous situation, no matter who won the battle between Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi, between Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple, there would always be one side that would not let it go. Once these two behemoths collided, it was very likely to affect the overall situation of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land. This made more people concerned about the progress of the ancient Sky Dragon Domain battle in West Hill City. Dao Master Blue Thunder of the Purple Heaven Path, Prince Yuxian of the Northern Militant Imperial Court, Immortal Sword of the Heavenly Sword Sect, Honorable Sun Sword of the Sun and Moon Sword Sect, Honorable Star Sword of the Constellation Sword Sect, and Honorable Flowing Light of the Celeritas Sword Sect all arrived at West Hill City early or late. Among them, Dao Master Blue Thunder and Prince Yuxian of the Northern Militant Imperial Court traveled with Lin Feng. After the others arrived at West Hill City, they also paid a visit to Lin Feng and Xianlin Taoist. Just after sending off Honorable Flowing Light of the Sword, Zhu Yi came to report, Master, 2 seniors from the Reincarnation sect have come. One is Lu Jikun of the Hell Path, and the other is Yilong Bing of the Human Path. Eldest senior brother is accompanying them. Lin Feng smiled slightly, invite them in. Soon, a skinny middle-aged man appeared in front of Lin Feng. He had high cheekbones and bronze skin. It was Lu Jikun of the Hell Path. Beside him was a tall young man who looked to be in his 20s or 30s. His divine splendor was restrained, and he seemed to have returned to his natural state. He stood there like an ordinary person who didn't know any Tao. Under the concealment of the system, no one could see through Lin Feng's cultivation, but this young man was different. Others might not be able to see through his depth, but Lin Feng could still see at a glance that this person was already a great cultivator of the essence soul realm, and had achieved Tao for thousands of years. This person was naturally the essence soul expert of the human path of the reincarnation sect, Yi Longbing, who was known as the Peach Blossom Immortal. In the 6 paths of reincarnation, the human path cultivated the 7 emotions and 6 desires, and all kinds of magical powers were derived from it. There were spells, illusions, and many other kinds, but relatively speaking, it was the weakest in actual combat. However, after the cultivation of the 7 emotions and 6 desires, the cultivators of the human path improved their state of mind very quickly, and they had the fewest bottlenecks in the process of cultivation. Therefore, it was easier to cultivate than other Tao techniques of the reincarnation sect. Cultivators relied on their slightly higher cultivation dermic powers to overcome their disadvantages in spells and magical powers. For example, Yi Longbing was younger than Lu Jikuan, but he had already reached the peak of the first tier of the essence soul realm, and was gradually approaching the threshold of refining the spirit into the void. This was not because of the difference in their qualifications, but because of the difference in Tao techniques. Yi Longbing cultivated the Tao, which was the Tao of lust among the 7 emotions and 6 desires. From the first day of his cultivation, he was used to seeing romantic scenes and befriending countless beautiful women. Hence, when he reached the primordial spirit realm, he called himself the Peach Blossom Fairy. It's just that Yi Longbing's cultivation method was about crossing the sea of flowers without reluctance. It was precisely to see through the desires of men and women, which had similarities with the Buddhist sect's joyous meditation, red beauty and white bones, and heavenly fragrance skin pouch. In addition to seeing one's heart and understanding one's nature, one also understood the principle of the interaction between yin and yang. In essence, it was actually a profound Tao technique that was in line with the great way of heaven and earth, but it had a bad reputation. When Lu Jikuan and Yi Longbing saw Lin Feng, they both cupped their hands and greeted, "Sect Leader Lin." Lu Jikuan smiled and said, "Sect Leader Lin, it's been a long time." "Tao Master Hell, how have you been?" Lin Feng smiled and greeted them. After both parties took their seats, they did not talk about anything else. Most of the time, they were just chatting, and the focus of their discussion was on the upcoming battle between the 2 stones. Lu Jikuan and Yi Longbing did not mention it, and Lin Feng did not ask too much, but both parties actually understood each other's intentions. Lin Feng knew why the 2 of them had come, and he personally received them. Both parties had a good chat, which was equivalent to expressing his attitude. Lu Jikuan and Yi Longbing's trip was not in vain, so they were naturally satisfied. "Fellow Yi, I heard that your sect produces a type of spiritual medicine called feather spirit vine?" Lin Feng suddenly asked as they chatted. Yi Longbing's eyes flashed, and he immediately nodded. "That's right." Among the reincarnation sect's 6 paths, the human path was also the sect that was best at cultivating medicinal herbs and refining elixirs. Lin Feng asked, "I wonder if you can transplant a few to my Xianmen Tianzong? I will not let your sect suffer losses, and I will definitely reward you generously." Yi Longbing looked at Lin Feng, and after a moment of hesitation, he said, "Sect Master Lin, I am very grateful for your kindness, but to be honest, there is only 1 feather spirit vine left in the human path, and I am afraid it is not convenient for me to give it to you." There was no need for him to lie to Lin Feng about this, but he could not tell Lin Feng the details, because it involved the reincarnation sect's internal conflicts. In a conflict not long ago, the human path's medicine valley was attacked, and most of the medicinal herbs were destroyed. The feather spirit vine was still fine, at least it had a single seedling left, but some rare spiritual medicines were directly destroyed, causing great losses to the human path. Hearing this, Lin Feng did not force the issue, and he lightly nodded. In that case, we can talk about it later. In other words, he had no intention of giving up on the feather spirit vine. Of course, he would not give it up, because the feather spirit vine was one of the main ingredients of the 33 Days Fortune Celestial Pill. Yi Longbing thought about it, and felt that it was not good to reject Lin Feng, so he immediately said, I heard that Sect Master Lin has a Yuanying stage magic artifact called the Bronze Void Cauldron, and you gave it to your little disciple, Shi Tianhao? Lin Feng looked at him, and slowly nodded. You also know about the Bronze Void Cauldron? After confirming that the Tianqi sect and Chao Wei's target was this Yuanying stage magic artifact, Lin Feng also did a search in the system. The Bronze Void Cauldron was originally a set of Yuanying stage magic artifacts, a total of 9 pieces, called the Nine-Child Mother Bronze Void Cauldron. This set of Yuanying stage magic artifacts was a companion to a magic artifact called the Void Mountain River Cauldron, and its original owner was a primordial soul cultivator, the Mountain River Master, 6,000 years ago. The Mountain River Master became enemies with the Tianqi sect, and in the end, he was killed by the Tianqi sect, and the Void Mountain River Cauldron also fell into the hands of the Tianqi sect. To be honest, the Void Mountain River Cauldron was a magic artifact, and it was very precious for the Tianqi sect, but the Yuanying stage magic artifact, the Bronze Void Cauldron, was not so precious. Lin Feng did not think that Chao Wei had painstakingly sought the Bronze Void Cauldron because he was a collector, or because he was a perfectionist. As the Mother Cauldron, the Void Mountain River Cauldron must have other unique features, and the 9 child cauldrons needed to be gathered to unlock the secret. It was just that even though the information provided by the system was complete and thorough, it was limited to the historical data that everyone knew and semi-public information. A lot of secrets could not be found, so Lin Feng did not understand what Chao Wei's intentions were. Yi Longbing said slowly, it seems that Sect Master Lin also knows about the Void Mountain River Cauldron and the Bronze Void Cauldron. Lin Feng looked up at him. How much do you know? Sect Master Lin, please don't misunderstand. I don't know what secret this magic artifact is hiding. Yi Longbing shook his head. I just accidentally found out that the Tianqi sect is trying hard to find the 9 child cauldrons. The specific reason is unknown, but they currently have 7 cauldrons. Lin Feng's heart moved slightly. Oh, 7. Including the Bronze Void Cauldron in his hand, he was still missing one. Yi Longbing looked at Lin Feng and said seriously, I just happen to know the whereabouts of the last Bronze Void Cauldron. Chapter 576. Lin Feng looked at Yi Longbing silently. Oh. Please speak your mind, fellow Taoist Yi. There's no need for sect leader Lin to pay anything. Yi Longbing shook his head. At the end of the day, it's just an unverified piece of information. Just take it as a gift to congratulate you on your success. It was naturally good to trade equally, but Yi Longbing had come to West Hill City with the intention of building a relationship with Lin Feng. If he could curry favor with Lin Feng this way, it would definitely be beneficial for him to achieve his goal. With Lin Feng's current reputation and status, even a primordial spirit expert like Yi Longbing would take the initiative to seek cooperation more often. Since he took the initiative to seek cooperation, he naturally had to humble himself first. Lin Feng glanced at Yi Longbing and smiled slightly. Fellow Taoist Yi, you're too polite. I thank you for your kindness on behalf of my disciple. Yi Longbing's information was rather crude, but Lin Feng's intuition told him that it was probably very reliable. I heard that Chao Wei has also come to West Hill City. It goes without saying that he wants to fish in troubled waters. Lin Feng smiled inwardly. I'm waiting for you. Compared to the Skypool sect, Lin Feng actually cared more about the Mount Shu sword sect. At the Tianji Peak sword trials, Mount Shu had been utterly defeated and humiliated by him. However, that was because the third-tier primordial spirit experts, including sect leader Xi and Longsheng, were in seclusion and could not be present. Lin Feng could roughly guess the reason for their seclusion. Just as Lin Feng coveted Mount Shu's heavenly immortal sword qi, Mount Shu was also coveting his heaven-punishing sword qi. It would have been fine if Mount Shu did not come this time, but once Exai and Longxing arrived, it meant that their seclusion had definitely yielded results. At that time, Mount Shu and Taishu Temple's radicals would suppress them together, which would be equivalent to the two sacred grounds joining forces. Looking at the current divine land, there was probably no force that had the confidence to withstand such pressure, except for Taishu Temple itself. I need to make more preparations. Lin Feng thought to himself, it's just that it's still too early for me to bear that kind of power. Silently, Lin Feng sat upright in his quiet room. Suddenly, he felt that someone was asking to see him. The newcomers were a man and a woman. The man was slightly older, about 17 years old. He had dark skin, a tall and thin figure, and a dignified expression on his face. It was Li Yuanfang. The girl was younger, only about 10 years old. She was dressed in red and looked very cute. She was Luo Qinggu. The two of them met outside the door. The little girl was a little embarrassed, but she still walked in with Li Yuanfang. After seeing each other, the two of them knelt in front of Lin Feng. After making up her mind, the little lowly was even more open. She said in a crisp voice, Xiao Wu wants to become Senior's disciple and learn the Tao. I want to listen to Senior's orders. Please accept Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu will be obedient and cultivate diligently. This had become the biggest vision and dream in Luo Qingwu's heart. Even if Lin Feng did not agree to her this time, she would continue to work hard until she met the entry requirements. For this, she could do anything. Silently, Li Yuanfang knelt beside Luo Qingwu. He first kowtowed to Lin Feng, then straightened up and said seriously, Junior is indebted to Senior's great kindness. I have no way to repay it, so I dare not ask for anything else. I only hope to become a disciple of Xianmen Tianzong. I will follow Xianmen Tianzong's orders and run errands for the sect. Please accept Junior, Senior. After saying that, Li Yuanfang kowtowed to the ground again. He was extremely grateful to Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong. He also had a deep sense of belonging to Xianmen Tianzong. So when Ding Runfeng insulted Xianmen Tianzong, he stood up. What he was conflicted about was not whether he was willing to be apprenticed to Lin Feng. But he believed that he had received too much kindness from Lin Feng. It was so much that this young man felt that he could not repay it at all. If he wanted to be apprenticed to Lin Feng, wouldn't it be more advantageous for him? Until Ding Runfeng said that he was not Lin Feng's disciple. This really made Li Yuanfang, who liked to take everything seriously, extremely unhappy. It also made him finally make up his mind to be apprenticed to Xianmen Tianzong. Even if it was just to be a floor sweeper, he was willing. Lin Feng looked at Li Yuanfang and Luo Qinggu in front of him. He smiled slightly and supported them with his transcendence energy, allowing them to stand up. I, Xianmen Tianzong, accept heroes from all over the world. Since you are willing to join us, I will naturally not reject you. But the details can wait until you return to the mountain. Now, just cheer for Tianhao with peace of mind. Lin Feng smiled, the battle between Tianhao and the dual-pupiled person is a rare opportunity for you. Watch it carefully, and you will benefit greatly. Li Yuanfang and Luo Qinggu immediately bowed to Lin Feng, yes, master. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The day of the final battle was approaching. The fated battle between Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi was finally about to begin. Lin Feng came out of the quiet room. The courtyard outside the house was already filled with people. Led by his personal disciples and Zen Master Dade, everyone was waiting for him. Let's go. Lin Feng smiled. His transcendence energy swept up everyone, and they instantly passed through the endless void and arrived outside the imperial palace. There, Prince Anliang Shi Zongyue, Honorable Swordsman Fluttering Snow, Crown Prince Shi Chongyun, and Princess Shi Xingyun welcomed them together. You are too kind. After Lin Feng landed, he first greeted Shi Zongyue and Honorable Swordsman Fluttering Snow. Then, his gaze fell on Crown Prince Shi Chongyun. This arrogant and overbearing Crown Prince of the Great Qin dynasty was much steadier than when he met him on Yinqing Peak. However, He was also gloomier. When he saw Lin Feng, he looked respectful and bowed to Lin Feng together with Shi Xingyun. After Lin Feng landed, he released Xiao Yan and the others. Xiao Yan and Shi Chongyun met face to face, his face instantly revealing an expression that was like a smile yet not a smile. Although Shi Chongyun did not reveal his transcendence energy, Xiao Yan could vaguely tell that Shi Chongyun had not wasted his time during this period. He had broken through to the middle Yuanying realm and could now absorb the 9 heavens clear qi to strengthen his Yuanying, spiritual soul, and physical body. But compared to that day on Cloud Traversing Peak, Xiao Yan's improvement in strength had reached an even more exaggerated stage. Even though Shi Chongyun's strength far surpassed normal Yuanying stage cultivators, in a one-on-one fight Xiao Yan still had the confidence to beat him until he was looking for his teeth all over the ground. When Shi Chongyun saw Xiao Yan and Yu Hongyan, his eyes flickered slightly. However, he did not say anything and greeted the crowd calmly. Since he was not here to cause trouble, Xiao Yan and Yu Hongyan would naturally not care about him. Everyone would follow the normal procedure. Shi Xingyun stood at the side and shook his head with a smile as he watched the scene. Shi Zongyue silently observed Shi Chongyun's behavior and nodded slightly. He then looked at Lin Feng and said, "Sect leader Lin, please." As he spoke, Shi Zongyue clapped his hands and a talisman flew into the air. It shone brightly and soon turned into a door of light with a large amount of red light seeping out. This door of light was connected to the ancient Sky Dragon domain. With Shi Zongyue leading the way, everyone entered the ancient Sky Dragon domain through the door of light. This was a completely independent space that was almost like a medium-class world. The scenery was strange and varied, and the sky was a deep red. In addition to the red sky, there were many chaotic airflows in the ancient Sky Dragon domain. Although the spiritual qi seemed chaotic, it actually operated in a unique pattern. Lin Feng sensed it for a moment and said, no wonder the ancient Sky Dragon domain moved. The spiritual qi here is not suitable for the demon race to cultivate. It seems chaotic, but it actually contains a few stable patterns and rhythms that are very suitable for the human race to cultivate. To be precise, it's actually suitable for mixed blood half-demons. Between the deep red sky and earth, there were 5 different colors of white, green, black, red, and yellow flashing from time to time. It was gorgeous and dazzling, as though light dragons were dancing in the sky. It was not a simple illusion, but there was a real and thick dragon power within it. It was the combination of the spiritual qi in the ancient Sky Dragon domain and the remnant aura of the dragon race here. Some of the aura of the dragon race was extremely powerful, and there was no lack of aura left behind by the Dragon King who had achieved an indestructible demonic soul. Such a powerful aura combined with the spiritual qi to form a light dragon that vaguely possessed spirituality, like a real dragon. The people who followed Lin Feng in were amazed. This place was indeed worthy of being the place where the great Qin dynasty thrived. It was a different feeling compared to the scene on Yujing Mountain. The group of second-generation inner chamber disciples, as well as Xiao Zhen, Li Yuanfang, Luo Qinggu, Jun Zining, and the others, all looked at everything in front of them with interest. On the other hand, although Xiao Yan and his senior brothers, Tunten and Zhuge Fengling were also scanning the scene in the ancient Sky Dragon domain, their focus was clearly different. They looked around, and then gathered together from time to time to whisper. Shi Chongyun and Shi Xingyun were a little curious, and Shi Xingyun simply moved closer. Shi Chongyun was too embarrassed to move closer, but his ears also perked up to listen carefully. This is very strange, why can't I see any signs of damage? Could the environment of the ancient Sky Dragon domain have a regeneration function? Xiao Yan looked around with a face full of disbelief. Tunten curled his lips. Impossible, it must be in a relatively hidden place, we just haven't discovered it. Zhuge Fengling also said in a strange tone, but I really can't see anything strange, it's so strange. Although Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Yu Hongyan, and Yang Qing did not say anything, the expressions on their faces were a little strange. Sword Sovereign Flying Snow also noticed the younger generation whispering and asked, "What's the matter?" Nothing, nothing. Xiao Yan denied, but soon muttered to himself, "It's been 3 days, that can't be. Did the sun rise from the west?" Sword Sovereign Flying Snow and Shi Chongyun were confused, and then saw the corners of Shi Zongyue's and Shi Xingyun's mouths twitch. Shi Zongyue's face darkened, as if he had thought of something unpleasant, while Shi Xingyun smiled bitterly. "Sister, what nonsense are they talking about?" A confused Shi Chongyun transmitted his voice to Shi Xingyun. Shi Xingyun sighed. "They're surprised that Tianhao didn't cause any trouble after entering our ancient sky dragon domain. According to past experience, this place should have been chaotic and earth-shattering." Shi Chongyun opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "Has this brat really grown up?" Shi Xingyun, who had witnessed the Desolate Sea Grand Assembly, the ancient Desolate Sea Realm, and the Kunpeng's secret treasure, could not help but feel nervous at this time. His eyes began to sweep around to check everything in the ancient sky dragon domain. King Anliang, Shi Zongyue, who was walking at the front, had already begun to do this. He wanted to turn every inch of the ancient sky dragon domain over and over again. Chapter 577. The maturing dragon tendon grass, illusion fruit, and other spirit herbs were not stolen or eaten. The mixed blood dragon beasts were not hunted or killed. The dragon blood spirit spring was not destroyed or looted. Shi Zongyue and Shi Xingyun looked around but did not find anything wrong. Both of them clicked their tongues in amazement and found it unbelievable. Xiao Yan and the other disciples rubbed their eyes. Did the sun really rise from the west? Zhu Yi smiled and said, "Little junior brother is growing up. He won't be as mischievous as before." Yang Qing also said, "Today is his big day after all. I don't think he will be distracted by other things, right?" "Impossible." Tunton yelled, "I bet he must have done something. Otherwise, I'll go on a hunger strike from now on." Xiao Yan curled his lips. "A leopard can't change its spots." "You're going on a hunger strike? Only a fool would believe you. But on the other hand, I don't believe that little junior brother has really settled down this time. Maybe we just haven't discovered it yet." As he spoke, Shi Chongyun snorted, "The ancient sky dragon domain is filled with formations. Even if he wants to do something bad, he..." Shi Chongyun's voice suddenly stopped, as if he had thought of something. At the same time, Shi Zongyue's expression changed drastically. Shi Xingyun also came to a realization, could it be? Shi Zongyue didn't even bother to say goodbye to Lin Feng, rushing into the distance. Lin Feng and the others followed behind him and flew all the way. Very soon, a huge building appeared in front of everyone. Lin Feng looked over. The building looked strange, like a huge hourglass placed on the ground. The bottom was huge, and the middle was small. It extended toward the red sky above like a tree spreading its branches and leaves, forming a huge building complex. However, these were not trees or plants, but rocks. Above the building, streams of 5-colored dragon chi soared into the sky, connecting to the 9 heavens and spreading out in all directions. Among the rocks, white bones could vaguely be seen. They were incomparably thick, and there were auspicious clouds of the dragon clan surging around them. They were all true dragon bones. The top of the building was sunken, like a huge valley basin. There were mountains, rivers, and lakes in the center, and the area was vast. This building was incomparably huge, even larger than an ordinary mountain range. At the top of the valley, there were many empty spaces. However, these empty spaces were extremely large and narrow. They were a few dozen feet wide, but they were dozens of feet long. Some were even more than 1,000 feet long. There were also many square or circular spaces all around the central valley. In addition, there were many huge stone pillars that stood tall and pointed straight to the sky. Whether it was the empty ground or the stone pillars, although they had been through countless years, the marks left by the dragon scales on them were still clearly visible. "This is the dragon arena," Xiao Yan murmured, "the core region of the ancient sky dragon domain, the place where the primordial sky dragons rested and dueled." He looked at the huge empty space and the stone pillars. These are the seats that the dragon clan left for themselves. When they want to watch the battle, they can lie on the empty space or sit on the stone pillars. Shi Xingyun replied, exactly. The ancestors of the Great Qin Empire have preserved the original appearance of the dragon arena. Everything is exactly the same as when the dragon clan rested. Her gaze drifted away slightly, but she composed herself very soon. She continued, however, our Great Qin Empire has cast down many formations in the dragon arena. On one hand, it's to guide the pulses of spiritual qi in the ancient region, making it more suitable for humans to cultivate. On the other hand, it's for protection. As she said that, she heard Shi Zongyue let out a grunt, but he was too furious to say anything. Shi Xingyun sensed it carefully and immediately became speechless as well. Shi Chongyun gazed at Xiao Yan and the others like a hawk and a wolf. It's all that kid's doing. Xiao Yan and the others were confused, but Lin Feng understood what was going on. He sighed inside. The formations that the Great Qin Empire had cast down in the dragon arena had already been thrown into a mess. The formations here should have used many refined bones of true dragons as raw materials to draw in the tremendous amount of spiritual qi in the ancient region. But now, nearly half of these true dragon bones had been dug out by others. Even if they used their knees to think, they knew who had done this. Shi Tianhao had obtained the emperor's permission to enter the ancient region of Sky Dragon and familiarize himself with the situation in the dragon arena. He had obtained Stonefeather's decree, so as long as Stonefeather did not take the initiative to control it, the formations in the ancient region of Sky Dragon would not target the tiny Shi Tianhao. He had basically opened the door to a thief. A streak of light flew out of the dragon arena and stopped before everyone. It was Dao Master Chang'e. He clasped his hands towards Lin Feng, Shi Zongyue, the sword exalt of flying snow, the Buddhist master of virtue, and so on with a bitter smile. Shi Zongyue was like a volcano that was about to erupt. The kid dug out the dragon bones. Dao Master Chang'e sighed. He opened his hand, and several dozen grain-sized granules appeared in his palm. They were translucent like crystals, radiating with a heavy dragon's might and aura of power. They were the dragon bones used to cast down the formations. He didn't take them for himself, returning them in full. However, he can't cast down the formations anymore, and the flow of spiritual qi in the dragon arena has completely changed as a result. Dao Master Chang'e said, I've already reported this to His Majesty. His Majesty has given him a verbal order to let him be. Shi Zongyue was both exasperated and amused. Ha, this time, he's really used 3 days to erase Shi Tianyi's advantage of a year. Shi Tianyi had once cultivated in the ancient region of Sky Dragon for a year, so he was extremely familiar with both the dragon arena and the environment of the ancient region of Sky Dragon itself. But now, the environment of the dragon arena had completely changed. Whether it be to Shi Tianhao or Shi Tianyi, they had both become extremely unfamiliar. It was equivalent to a neutral ground. Neither of them possessed a geographical advantage. Dao Master Chang'e shook his head. It's probably the exact opposite. Shi Zongyue was mildly surprised. He carefully sensed the pulses of spiritual qi in the dragon arena again, and he immediately became surprised. Nice one, kid. Shi Chongyun and Shi Xingyun's cultivation was still insufficient. Now that they were far away from the dragon arena, they could not sense the spiritual qi in there clearly enough. Dao Master Chang'e looked at them and sighed. After Shi Tianhao's changes, the dragon arena is more suitable for cultivators with stronger souls to unleash their strength, while it's even more disadvantageous for cultivators of the body. Shi Chongyun and Shi Xingyun were both stunned. Everyone knew that due to Shi Tianyi's natural dual pupils, his innate soul was far greater than regular people's. Afterwards, he practiced the methods of the soul of the Taishu Temple and wandered into the Taishu Temple, so the strength of his soul became even more powerful. Very few cultivators at the same realm of cultivation could rival him. People like Wang Lin, who could compete with Shi Tianyi in terms of soul, were outliers among outliers after all. As a matter of fact, even Lin Feng recognized them. Let alone everything else, perhaps only Wang Lin and Zhu Yi could put up a fight against Shi Tianyi out of all his disciples when it came to the strength of the soul. The former had narrowly escaped death, wandering through the spatial battlefield for several decades as a lonely soul, tempering himself and even cleansing his soul with the true water of the netherworld. The latter had nurtured himself for many years, merging his scholarly will with the way, lighting up the flames of wisdom and cleansing his body and mind. His soul was reborn, basically mastering the cultivation methods of ancient Confucianism without a teacher. He even showed signs of surpassing his predecessors, allowing him to obtain an extremely powerful soul after birth. And the little Shi Tianhao is the strongest in terms of physical strength among the disciples under Lin Feng's tutelage. There is no one else. Originally, he was as strong as a cub of an ancient ferocious beast, and after being nourished by the wind and thunder spirit Qi, the lunar true water, the great sage beast skin, the Kunpeng true blood, and countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures, the toughness of his body had reached an unprecedented level in his current realm. However, he had changed the battlefield into a state that was more suitable for Shi Tianyi to fight. There were two possibilities. Either he was an idiot, or he had absolute confidence in himself. How could someone who has cultivated to the advanced stage of the golden elixir at the age of 13 be an idiot? Shi Xingyun and Shi Chongyun looked at each other and shook their heads. After a brief moment of shock, Xiao Yan and the others clapped their hands and laughed, cheering for their junior brother's courage. I'll still crush you even if I go easy on you. Lin Feng shook his head and broke into laughter. Silly kid. That was what he said, but Lin Feng agreed with Shi Tianhao's actions. Victory was the #1 priority in actual combat. Even if he had to increase his chances of victory as much as possible and weaken his opponent, he had to adapt to the situation. The battle between the two stones was a decisive battle. In a battle like that, raising one's morale and mentality was instead even more important than geographical advantages. During the 3 days in the ancient Sky Dragon region, Shi Tianhao had already built up his momentum to the limit. He was waiting to erupt with it when he fought Shi Tianyi. Let's go. With a wave of his hand, Lin Feng descended into the dragon arena with everyone, landing in a large, empty space on the outskirts of the valley. A few people had already arrived in the dragon arena. When they saw Lin Feng's arrival, they all nodded in greeting. Lin Feng also nodded his head, then sat down cross-legged on the empty ground, his expression relaxed. Xian Li followed closely behind him. Under Lin Feng's signal, she also sat down. However, she did not remove the huge sword case, still carrying it on her back. It was rather eye-catching. Everyone had grown accustomed to Xian Li's existence over the past 3 days. Xiao Yan, the direct disciples, and the Chan Master Dade all sat down behind Lin Feng in a row. The others sat in a row even further behind, silently waiting for the battle to begin. The second-generation disciples were rather curious. They gazed at the valley below in front of the empty space. Right now, they all possessed some cultivation at Qi practitioner as well. Their eyes and ears were sharp, and their vision was exceptional. However, even after searching for quite a while, they failed to find a single person in the vast valley. That's strange. Where's the little senior uncle? Yan Wuwei's chubby cheeks twitched as he asked curiously. Beside him, Su Yunxing said silently, I don't know. Don't talk too much. Just wait patiently. Shi Zongyue and the others also looked at Dao Master Changle. Dao Master Changle shook his head. After dismantling the dragon bones, he left the dragon arena. Under His Majesty's orders, I did not search for or track down his location. Everyone said nothing. As time went on, more and more people arrived in the dragon arena. Basically all the spectators had arrived. Very soon, white clouds surged in the distant sky, and a few figures appeared. Everyone in the dragon arena riled up with vigor. The people from the Taishu Temple have arrived. Chapter 578. The white cloud passed through space and arrived in the dragon arena very soon. The Great Qin Empire obviously sent people to receive them, and they landed in an empty area. The various organizations, whether it be the Xianmen Tianzong and the Taishu Temple behind Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi, or the other sects and organizations that had come to watch the ceremony, had all been arranged by the Great Qin Empire beforehand. For example, Xianmen Tianzong and the Taishu Temple just happened to face each other from afar, one in the east and the other in the west. Directly north was where the Great Qin Empire sat as the host, while the people who had come to watch the ceremony were scattered around in twos and threes. The leader of the Taishu Temple was a person who seemed like a child. His expression was tranquil, and his gaze was extremely aged. However, none of the people present would underestimate him, as they all knew that this person who seemed like a child was actually a member of the Taishu Temple's Council of Great Elders, a central figure of the radical faction, Quang Heng. Quang Heng had already made a name for himself for over 10,000 years. As a matter of fact, before the Xianlin Taoist and the current temple master of the Taishu Temple, Yan Nanlai, he had experienced two great wars against the demon's world. After the war between the two worlds last time, the then temple master of the Taishu Temple had retired to the Council of Great Elders due to his injuries. Back then, the two people with the most support for the position of temple master were Yan Nanlai and Quang Heng. In the end, Yan Nanlai ascended to the position, and Quang Heng failed. He also joined the Council of Great Elders. However, everyone in the know knew that the reason why Quang Heng had failed was not because he was not as good as Yan Nanlai, but because he belonged to the radical faction, while Yan Nanlai belonged to the conservative faction. Meanwhile, the Taishu Temple had always walked the path of stability. Quang Heng was calm. His gaze landed on Lin Feng first. There was no joy or sorrow, and he nodded indifferently in greeting. Lin Feng faintly smiled, also nodding his head in return. A middle-aged man stood beside Quang Heng. He was the Xianlin Taoist, while a woman in white stood on the other side. She was Exalt Yunzhan. Not to mention anything else, just the three of them standing there already gave off an oppressive feeling. 2 third-tier Essence Soul Realm experts and 1 second-tier Essence Soul Realm expert. Even the Great Qin dynasty and the Great Zhou dynasty would find it difficult to produce such a lineup, let alone the Heavenly Sword sect, the Northern Militant Royal Court, the Purple Firmament Dao, and the Skypon sect. Looking at the current divine land, perhaps only the Mount Shu Sword sect had more experts. However, Quang Heng and the other two were only a part of the Taishu Temple. Even the entire radical faction had not been mobilized. Those who had been around for a long time or were well informed all knew that the actual leader of the radical faction in Taishu Temple was Xianlin Taoist Shibua, Quang Heng's Shifu, Taishu Temple's previous bigwig, Shoichi Dashin, who was of the same generation as Tai Daoist Lord. It was this old man who had received Xianlin Taoist and Daoist Lord Yunzun from the Yu family's ancestral land. However, he had been living in seclusion on Mount White Cloud in recent years. The daily affairs of the radical faction in Taishu Temple had also been entrusted to Quang Heng and the others. Taishu Temple had always been secluded from the world. Although it had a great reputation, it always gave many people a surreal feeling. It was only today that they had a better understanding of it. The Heavenly Sword sect's Elder Sword immortal side. Taishu Temple is just a radical faction, but it is stronger than Mount Shu. All the sects in the Divine Land have to thank the conservative faction of Taishu Temple for reigning in this fierce horse. The Heavenly Sword sect he came from was actually supported by Taishu Temple to keep Mount Shu Sword sect in check. Therefore, he knew Taishu Temple better than anyone else. Everyone present today had arrived. Taishu Temple was like the finale, stealing all the limelight the moment they arrived. In Xianmen Tianzong's camp, little fatty Yan Wuwei curled his lips. What? They're too ostentatious. Lu Xiaofeng shook his head and said, it's not ostentatious. They have the strength and status, but they clearly know that the dual-pupiled person has committed a blood debt in the past, yet they still accept him as their disciple. This kind of behavior is really despicable. They are really hypocrites. Before he finished speaking, Zhu Yi, who was sitting in front of him, said lightly, you can say that Taishu Temple is overbearing and domineering, unable to distinguish right from wrong, but they are not hypocrites. Because in this place, whether it's the conservative faction or the radical faction, the code of conduct has never been to follow the path of a gentleman. Zhu Yi did not turn around. With his back facing the group of second-generation disciples, he said, the conservative faction is unrestrained, while the radical faction seeks to rule by force. In this place, the goal has always been clear, and the methods used are disregarded. It has never been the conduct of a gentleman, and they do not flaunt themselves as righteous. Once they have a goal, they will unswervingly follow their own path, and they will carry it through to the end. The reputation of the outside world is actually more based on what outsiders say, or in other words, others hope that they are righteous, upright, and virtuous gentlemen. Because to outsiders, this is only beneficial to them, and only then can the threat of this behemoth be minimized. At this point, Zhu Yi suddenly laughed softly. Too much of the outside world's reputation is like shackles on Taishu Temple. The funny thing is that some of the younger generation of Taishu Temple really fell for it. But it's a pity that the big shots who are truly at the helm are not muddle-headed. To be able to reach their position, how could they change themselves because of the voices of outsiders? Ever since he knew some of his parents' past, Zhu Yi had put a lot of effort into Taishu Temple, and his understanding was far more thorough than that of ordinary people. Yan Wuwei shrank his fat neck and did not speak. Lu Xiaofeng scratched his head and asked, but second Uncle Master, since this is the case, Taishu Temple, Mount Shu Sword Sect, and Big Lane Temple are known as the three holy lands of the righteous path in the divine land, and the demonic path was completely defeated in the Middle Ages. According to what you said, what's the difference between the righteous path and the demonic path? Isn't it simply the winner takes all? History is written by the victors, and the losers are tarnished by others. Studying at Yujing Mountain, Lu Xiaofeng and the others naturally knew some basic knowledge of the human cultivation world in great detail. Facing Lu Xiaofeng's doubts, Zhu Yi was not dissatisfied. Instead, he turned his head and nodded slightly to show his approval. You are right. It is indeed not simply the winner takes all. But the difference between the righteous path and the demonic path is not as black and white as the world has made it out to be. There are thousands of great Daos, but human nature is always the same. Lu Xiaofeng and the others slowly pondered over Zhu Yi's words. Xiao Yan chuckled and said, sit quietly and calm your mind. What's the big deal now? The one who laughs last is the one who laughs best. Subconsciously, everyone looked at Lin Feng's back and calmed down. Little fatty Yan Wuwei felt Lin Feng's indifference and slowly lowered his head to the ground. I was too impetuous. Lin Feng's back was facing them. His expression did not change. He looked at the people from Taishu Temple who had made the grand entrance and could not help but shake his head and laugh in his heart. Just as Xiao Yan said, the one who laughs last is the one who laughs best. The higher we stand now, the harder we fall later. Opposite them, Kuang Heng and the others landed one by one. Behind them stood a group of Taishu Temple disciples in twos and threes. All of them were full of energy and had outstanding cultivation at a young age. Among them was Ding Runfeng, who had a pure yang constitution. However, Bai Shiqian was not among them. The people from the other forces looked at the young Taishu Temple disciples with envy. Taishu Temple is indeed a place where geniuses gather. Even among the many Taishu Temple disciples, a tall young man was the most eye-catching. His expression was calm and his eyes were tightly shut. It was Shi Tianyi. Those who had seen him before experienced a wondrous feeling when they saw Shi Tianyi again. It was as if this young man was different from before, showing signs of being reborn. After bowing towards Kuang Heng and the others, Shi Tianyi leapt off the platform and landed in the valley below. He stood there calmly with his hands behind his back. My good little brother, you still haven't arrived. Shi Tianyi's voice rang out into the distance. The young cultivators in the dragon arena stirred slightly. This was the first time Shi Tianyi had taken the initiative to provoke Shi Tianhao with battle intent. Even after quite a while, Shi Tianhao did not reply. In the dragon arena, streams of power began to exchange. Although everyone said nothing, they all whispered to each other. The day of the battle had already arrived. Shi Tianyi had already arrived, while the other person fighting Shi Tianhao was nowhere to be seen, which immediately led to a lot of speculation. Shi Tianyi waited for quite a while before turning his head slightly. Are you not planning on appearing? Why are you in such a hurry? Is your right eye ready? A cold voice suddenly rang out from the Xianmen Tianzong camp. Instantly, everyone's gaze turned towards Lin Feng and the others. They saw that apart from Lin Feng, everyone else was also looking at a purple-clothed youth with a head full of white hair and an indifferent expression in surprise. That's the third disciple under the Master of the Gate of Wonders, Wang Lin. He's the one who blinded Shi Tianyi's left eye in the spatial battlefield. Those who understood what had happened immediately cried out. In the past, when he was still at the late Golden Elixir, he blinded the Yuanying Shi Tianyi. Now that I've heard he's also formed a nascent soul, doesn't that mean he's even stronger? Not necessarily. Shi Tianyi has become stronger too. We probably won't know until they fight. However, he really is a vicious person. I heard he killed people in the spatial battlefield with a raise of his hand. The Golden Elixir killed Yuanying people like they were dogs. In the cultivation world of the Divine Land, Wang Lin could also be said to be a legendary figure. He was an example of a person who did not make a name for himself, but once he did, he would amaze the world. From the very beginning, when he first became a disciple of Lin Feng, his cultivation progress was the slowest. He was even ridiculed as the only time Lin Feng made a mistake in accepting a personal disciple. Later on, when he first became famous at the Desolate Sea Assembly, he exploded like a blowout. In just a few months, he rushed from the early foundation establishment stage to the early Golden Elixir, shocking everyone. If Wang Lin did not have any special achievements until now, then in the spatial battlefield, he blinded one of the early Yuanying Shi Tianyi with his Golden Elixir cultivation. This made his name spread throughout the great heaven primordial world. In the end, he, who had always been inconspicuous under Lin Feng, was the first to form a Yuanying, officially becoming a figure that even primordial soul realm powerhouses would look at. Amidst the discussions in the surroundings, Shi Tianyi's eyes snapped open. He stared at Wang Lin, and the single pupil in his left eye suddenly constricted like a regular person's. It was this white-haired young man who ended his legend, even blinding the dual pupil he took pride in. However, it was exactly because of this that he underwent rebirth and took another step forward in strength. The dual pupil in Shi Tianyi's right eye shone with unprecedented light. A golden haze of light basically filled the entire dragon arena. Everything rose and fell in the haze, like a real world. Chapter 579. Out of all the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong present, Wang Lin was probably the person who made Shi Tianyi feel aggrieved the most. None of them were as effective as him in slapping Shi Tianyi's face. Just from looking at Wang Lin's expressionless face, Shi Tianyi felt his left eye ache slightly. Everyone in Xianmen Tianzong was rather surprised that Wang Lin would stand forward bravely. In particular, the second-generation disciples, including Wang Lin's direct disciple Li Xingfei, were all rather surprised. They never expected Wang Lin, who usually seemed like he did not care about anything, to stand forward voluntarily. On the other hand, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Yu Hongyan, and Yang Qing looked at one another and smiled. Looking at Shi Tianyi's double pupil in his right eye, Xiao Yan smiled gently and directly stood up. With a boom, 4 huge, fiery wings unfurled from his back. The 4-colored wings condensed from the 4 great true flames burned fiercely as devastating power expanded outwards. Beside him, Zhu Yi also stood up calmly. Clear light shone brightly above his head. Within the light, there seemed to be a magnificent text that shook up the space, leading to the sound of chanting in the surroundings. It was like countless sages were reciting poetry together, illuminating the world. In the dragon arena, everyone looked at Wang Lin and the two of them silently. For a moment, they were all speechless. The first disciple under the Master of the Gate of Wonders, Xiao Yan, had made a name for himself for the first time in the battle outside the Sand Continent City. Afterwards, he rose to fame for the first time in his battle against the Crown Prince of the Qin Empire, the early Yuanying Shi Chongyun, on the cloud-traversing peak as an early golden elixir cultivator. He became famous earlier than Wang Lin, but he had been on a downward curve. After the Battle of Cloud Peak, he was almost forgotten by the world, and the limelight was stolen by his junior brothers. But just a month ago, Xiao Yan reappeared in the world like a fire god descending to the mortal world. He forcefully flattened the Yu clan, single-handedly killed more than 10 Yuanying ancestors of the Yu clan, and killed 3 late-stage Yuanying experts with a celestial flaming lotus. Suddenly, he became the most dazzling existence among the disciples under Lin Feng. Even though his 2 junior brothers were one step ahead of him in Yuanying, it still couldn't cover up the brilliance of this brave youth. On the other hand, Zhu Yi, who was beside him, was also an extremely legendary figure. He didn't seem to reveal anything, but among his fellow disciples, he had always been a pillar of support. He would never disappoint anyone. His literary aura caused 100 saints to cry out in unison, and his late-stage golden elixir cultivation was recognized by a magic weapon of the transformation level, which was unparalleled in both ancient and modern times. Looking at them, everyone present couldn't help but think, the people of Xianmen Tianzong are all monsters. Compared to Xiao Yan and the others, even the Taishu Temple, which had always been known as the gathering place of geniuses, seemed to be weaker. Especially when they saw Yu Hongyan beside Xiao Yan and the others, this feeling became stronger. Just 3 days ago, in West Hill City, Yu Hongyan, with his early-stage golden elixir cultivation, fought against the late-stage golden elixir Taishu Temple's direct disciple Bai Shiqian. It was a fair battle, and he defeated Bai Shiqian. My good little brother, does he only know how to hide behind others? Shi Tianyi stared at Wang Lin and the others. His expression did not change at all, and his bearing was heavy. His body gradually lit up with white light and his aura surged, rising straight up into the deep red sky of the ancient Sky Dragon region. At this moment, the sky above the ancient Sky Dragon region suddenly became densely packed with thunderclouds. The thunderclouds shone with 5-colored light, and a golden dragon descended on the largest empty space to the north of the dragon arena. The golden dragon landed on the ground and revealed the Emperor Stonefeather's figure. A group of people followed beside him, and the person in the lead was a middle-aged scholar in plain clothes. He did not seem to possess any cultivation, but no one dared to underestimate him. He was the Minister of Authority of the Great Qin Empire, Wu Qingru. Stonefeather swept past the entire dragon arena. Are the 2 parties participating in the battle all here? Shi Tianyi said indifferently, some people aren't here yet. Stonefeather looked at Lin Feng, and Lin Feng raised his eyes to meet his gaze calmly. In the next moment, their gazes flashed at the same time. In the dragon arena, Kuang Heng and Xianlin Taoists' gazes moved slightly at the same time. Afterwards, the gazes of Dao Exalt Cloud Zong, Shi Zong Yue, the Old Sword Immortal, Sword Exalt Flying Snow, and so on all moved slightly, gazing towards the south of the dragon arena. More and more people gazed in that direction. Shi Tianyi, Xiao Yan, Wang Lin, Zhu Yi, and so on all gazed over too. Although it was very far away and atmospheric winds whistled past, everyone could still hear heavy footsteps rapidly approaching. When the footsteps landed on the ears of those who were below the nascent divinity realm, they felt as if the person was stepping on their hearts. Afterwards, the footsteps suddenly came to a halt. With a great boom, it was like something had struck the ground heavily. Afterwards, a figure rushed into the sky, somersaulting in the air and flipping into the dragon arena. When they saw the figure clearly, everyone was stunned. The newcomer was several meters tall, and his entire body flickered with golden light. He was like a vicious beast of primordial times that walked on its hind legs. A violent aura filled the entire dragon arena. He landed in the valley to the south of the dragon arena and made his way towards the bottom of the valley step by step. His footsteps were like thunder. As he advanced step by step, the golden light around him gradually vanished, and he became much shorter too. In the end, when the golden light dispersed, he was less than 3 meters tall. But at this moment, this person was covered in dense, purplish-green lightning and whistling gales. The crackling of electricity filled the air. It was extremely terrifying, like he was a god of ghosts. As he advanced, the wind and lightning gradually dispersed too, gradually revealing the figure of a tall, young man. Although he only seemed to be around 13 years old, he stood tall and straight. His figure was extremely perfect, as if he was a creation of the world, personally forged by the heavens. His pure white, jade-like skin was flat and glossy. He did not seem to possess any strength at all, just like porcelain. However, everyone present could vaguely sense the extremely terrifying vitality hidden in this body. His long, dark hair draped over his shoulders, and his eyes were clearly defined. With a swipe of his large, dark eyes, the corner of the young man's lips curled into a smile. As he walked, he even smiled and waved at the spectators in the dragon arena, greeting them. He even blew them a few kisses. Everyone collapsed in laughter. They were all speechless. Originally, they thought he was late because he was overly serious or nervous, but looking at it now, that was not the case at all. The young man seemed to walk slowly, but he actually arrived on the plains at the bottom of the valley very soon. He stopped and bowed towards Lin Feng on the Xianmen Tianzong's side first. "Master, your disciple has arrived." He was Lin Feng's disciple, the other main character of today's battle, Shi Tianhao. Lin Feng smiled. "Go ahead and do it." Shi Tianhao nodded. He turned around and looked at Shi Tianyi in front of him. His smile gradually vanished. "I've made you wait, my little big brother. I need you to help me open the dragon stone gate." "I do have that much patience," Shi Tianyi said silently. Shi Tianhao blinked his large, shiny eyes. "Oh yeah, I almost forgot if you didn't mention it. Knocking you over is just something I can do in passing. The gate is the main point." He turned around and looked around. "Though, where's the gate?" The Qin Emperor Shi Yu smiled from the northern terrace. He raised his eyes and gazed at the sky. His gaze had almost solidified. In the next moment, the dark red sky above everyone immediately rumbled. The space twisted strangely, forming a huge swirl that probably spanned thousands of kilometers. It was extremely colossal. Lin Feng also raised his head and gazed at the sky. He saw a dragon's roar ring out from the deep, red swirl. It was rather weak at first, but it grew louder and louder. Slowly, a milky white, jade gate emerged from the center of the swirl. It stood over 30 meters tall and was tightly shut. There were dragon carvings on its surface. The eyes of these carvings lit up together, shining with golden light as if they were about to come alive. Dragons' roars rang out from within. With the descent of the white jade gate, a rain of light danced through the sky like falling petals. The originally dark red sky was now dyed golden, dazzling. "Is this the dragon stone gate?" Everyone stared at the white jade gate. At this moment, the Qin Emperor Shi Yu said indifferently, "Descendants of my great Qin Shi clan have produced 2 young prodigies like you today. It's quite a grand occasion. In this dragon arena, you can unleash everything you're best at and fight it out. If your battle prowess can pass the test of the Dragon Stone Gate, then you can open the Dragon Stone Gate. The victor can enter the gate for a day, and you can use the treasures inside as you please." Stone Feather's gaze swept past Lin Feng and Quang Heng. Lin Feng and Quang Heng both nodded. Stone Feather immediately said, "You can begin now." As soon as he said that, 2 figures flashed between the plains and mountains up ahead. They had already collided like comets, charging towards each other together. Shockwaves spread out, immediately ripping apart the atmospheric winds and mist in the dragon arena. The bottom of the valley immediately lit up with auspicious clouds of the dragon race's might, blocking the shockwaves and preventing them from spreading out and affecting the surrounding viewing platforms. For a moment, the 2 figures collided several dozen times in the space. Every single collision was like 2 actual stars colliding, shocking and chilling. Even the gazes of the soul form experts only focused on the intense battle. "This battle will definitely go down in the annals of history," the Stellar Sword Exalt said slowly, and the Solar Luminary Sword Exalt beside him nodded too. For little Shirtu and big Shirtu to have this kind of realm and this kind of power at their age was really too rare. Even the Essence Soul cultivators felt slightly shaken when they thought about their Dharma powers when they were at the early stage of the nascent Soul realm and the peak stage of the Golden Core realm. Boom! Another violent collision occurred. The mist surged, and the atmospheric winds dispersed. Only after quite a while did it settle down. Two figures faced each other from afar, each standing on one side. To the east was the tiny Shi Tianhao. His face was indifferent as he stared at Shi Tianyi. He turned his head slightly. Shi Tianyi, it's been a while. Shi Tianyi looked at the young man before him calmly. After a while, he said indifferently, yeah, it's been a while, Shi Tianhao. Before this, when the two of them met, they still referred to each other as brothers. Outsiders had no idea how much ridicule, mockery, and contempt there was. But today, the two of them referred to each other by name for the first time. They shared the same goal. Today's battle would not end until one of them was dead. Chapter 580. Shi Tianhao stood calmly where he was, but his current physical state was completely different from before. He didn't show the terrifying appearance that he had when he first appeared. After Shi Tianhao had refined the great saint beast's skin and the heavenly movement of wind and thunder into his body, he would no longer show the wind and thunder ghost god's body and the image of the giant golden beast during a real battle. That form was actually his cultivation state, and not his battle state. At this moment, Shi Tianhao's originally pure white body was glowing with a faint golden glow, and under his skin, there was a greenish-purple light flowing. But his physical appearance did not change at all, and he still looked like a tall youth. But his entire body was burning hot, like an active volcano, and a volcano that was constantly erupting. The power within made all the adepts below the primordial spirit stage solemn. With such physical strength, even many late Yuanying adepts who had fused the Dharma of heaven and earth into their bodies would be ashamed of their inferiority. Opposite him, Shi Tianyi was deeply moved by this. Shi Tianyi's current appearance was also different from before. His skin was coated with a layer of gold, as though he was a Buddha statue. This was the ultimate defensive mystique of the Buddhist sect that he had cultivated, the unmovable King Buddha body, which he had pushed to the limits. An eternal, unmoving, and indestructible power surged out from within. But at this moment, many cracks had appeared on the surface of Shi Tianyi's golden Buddha-like body. The unmovable King Buddha body was actually broken. In the process of the physical body mystique and martial arts battle, the tiny Shi Tianhao was like using a hammer to smash a walnut, forcefully causing cracks to appear on Shi Tianyi's unmovable King Buddha body. Seeing this scene clearly, all the spectators gasped. To put it bluntly, if Shi Tianyi had not cultivated the strongest defensive mystique of the Great Tempest Monastery, the unmovable King Buddha body, and had instead cultivated some other defensive mystique, his body would have already been smashed into meat paste by Shi Tianhao. Thinking of this, all the adepts below the primordial spirit stage felt a chill down their spines. If they had been in Shi Tianyi's position, they would have been beaten to death by Shi Tianhao in just one round of physical combat. Even the entire celestial sect of wonders was alarmed. Xiao Yan gritted his teeth. He thought of a long time ago, when he and his senior brothers had just reached foundation establishment, and sparred with each other. At that time, Shi Tianhao, who was still only 4 or 5 years old, a complete milk baby, had already displayed powerful physical strength. At that time when they fought, Xiao Yan didn't believe in heresy and wanted to compete with Shi Tianhao in terms of physical strength. In the end, he lost. He looked at Zhu Yi and Wang Lin, who had already become Yuanying, and said, "You two, if you fight with little junior brother now, do you dare to compete with physical strength?" Zhu Yi, who had always been calm, rolled his eyes and said, "I must be crazy to compete with little junior brother in terms of physical strength." Wang Lin thought about it seriously and said, "The Yellow Spring's undying body can only guarantee that little junior brother won't kill you directly. Even if you transform into the Yellow Springs, you can't fight him head-on. Before the Yellow Spring's true water can purify his physical strength, he will first destroy it." Xiao Yan turned to look at Yu Hongyan. The red-haired girl, who had always been fearless and courageous, smiled bitterly and said, "I have also reached the late stage of the golden elixir, and with the demonic dragon halberd, I can barely fight, but in terms of physical strength, I can't win." At the side, Xiao Zhener suddenly smiled and said, big brother Xiao Yan, now only you are at the same level as him. Why don't you talk about yourself? Not caring that his disciple was sitting behind him, Xiao Yan chewed on a grass stalk without a care for his image and said casually, "It's very simple. In terms of physical strength, I can't beat this brat. If it's a full-scale battle, I will win if I can kill him with my triple fire lotus. If I can't, then I will be the next to die." Xianmen Tianzong and the others discussed enthusiastically. Shi Tianyi, who was in the field, had the deepest understanding of Shi Tianhao's physical strength. He looked down at the cracks on his golden body, and his eyes flashed. I really didn't expect that your physical strength is so strong. Previously in the void battlefield, although Jing Huanho didn't use his full strength, he was still a late-stage Yuanying martial artist. Although he had the upper hand in physical strength, he still couldn't crack Shi Tianyi's immovable King Buddha body, making it look like a broken statue. At this moment, Shi Tianyi's immovable King Buddha body was broken, and the immovable King Buddha body's will was gradually dissipating. He dissipated the power of the immovable King Buddha body completely. "I've always heard that your physical body is strong, so I decided to give it a try today. Seems like the rumors are true. Since that's the case, then I won't let you touch my body again." Shi Tianhao smiled. "If you say I won't touch you, then I won't touch you." As he said that, he pounced at Shi Tianyi like lightning. In an instant, he closed the distance and punched out. Shi Tianyi's double pupil shone brightly, and the golden light spread out, turning into a mist. Within the mist, countless patterns and symbols appeared, lining up and turning into all living things. Creating a fake world? Shi Tianhao was alarmed, and he stopped in his tracks. Shi Tianyi looked at him calmly. "What's wrong? Can't tell the difference between reality and illusion? Worried that the me standing here is just a fake illusion? Worried that you will fall into the world I created, and be controlled by me? To be honest, your senior brother Wang Lin's soul is very strong." Shi Tianyi calmly said, "My right eye is of limited use against him, especially when he is prepared in advance." Shi Tianyi's tone was gentle, as though he was chatting with Shi Tianhao. "But you are different. The power of your soul is only average, far from mine. You can't see through reality and illusion." Shi Tianhao bared his teeth and laughed. "Cut the crap. Come at me if you can. Do you think that the power of my double pupils is only for defense? Do you think that as long as you don't get close to me, you won't be hurt by my double pupils?" Shi Tianyi said calmly, "Wrong, very wrong. From the moment I saw you with my right eye, you were already in the world I created." In the next instant, Shi Tianhao suddenly felt Shi Tianyi's voice behind him. He could even feel Shi Tianyi's breath on his neck. "Now, do you understand?" Another Shi Tianyi suddenly appeared behind Shi Tianhao, close at hand. Divine light surged in his hand, like mist and lightning, striking towards the back of Shi Tianhao's head. And at this time, Shi Tianhao suddenly laughed. "The one who doesn't understand is you." As he spoke, he suddenly turned around, his right hand clenched into a fist, and his elbow flicked. His right fist was like a sledgehammer, striking towards Shi Tianyi behind him. Boom! Shi Tianhao's fist directly exploded space. Countless spirit energies were annihilated. Heaven, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, and swamp, the 8 phenomena of heaven, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, and swamp transformed into each other, advancing towards infinity. Then they were annihilated again, giving birth to infinite power that exploded. 8 trigram sky collapsing hammer. This punch of Shi Tianhao's was extremely fast. Even though it was launched later, it arrived first. It was even faster than Shi Tianyi's attack. Before Shi Tianyi's right hand could reach the back of his head, it had already struck Shi Tianyi's waist. Shi Tianyi, who had dispersed the immovable King Buddha body, was sent flying by this punch, fresh blood spurting out. Seeing this scene, Yu Hongyan's eyes lit up. Lin Feng didn't even turn back. He just smiled and said, "Seems like Hong Yan, you have gained something. Yu Hongyan answered, reporting to Master, disciple has been practicing your 8 trigrams heaven collapsing hammer. Currently, I have only mastered the thunder tremor hammer, mountain hammer, and earth hammer. Now that I have seen Tianhao's complete 8 trigrams heaven collapsing hammer, I have some new insights. If I ponder over it for a few more days, I will have more improvements. Lin Feng smiled faintly. You still have to be more independent. Yu Hongyan nodded. I understand, Master. In the spectator stands of the Great Qin Empire, Shi Chongyun nodded. Although Shi Tianyi's right pupil can create an illusory world, the world itself doesn't possess any offensive capabilities. Even if he creates an offensive scene or situation, it's all illusory. He can only suppress the enemy, not injure or kill them. Unless they just stand in a stalemate like this, Shi Tianyi has to personally take action and launch a second wave of attacks if he wants to launch a true attack. Shi Chongyun said, if he attacks from afar with techniques, then so be it, but if he attacks Shi Tianhao up close, he can't stop Shi Tianhao from reacting too quickly. He can respond in an instant, and he can even arrive first even if he starts later. Without the protection of the immovable King Buddha body, Shi Tianyi will immediately suffer a great loss. On the side, Shi Xingyun said, brother, the person with dual pupils isn't that simple. Oh. Shi Chongyun knew that his sister had a special background. Although her cultivation was not as great as his, her soul was more powerful. Hearing Shi Xingyun say that, he immediately shifted his attention back to the dragon arena. He saw Shi Tianhao send Shi Tianyi flying with a punch, but he did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he lowered his head and looked at his own fist closely. How crafty. Even the attack this time is an illusion. A third Shi Tianyi appeared near him. His expression was calm. Of course. Since I already know your physical strength is extremely powerful, why would I still be stupid enough to attack you from up close? Shi Tianhao waved his hand and said indifferently, oh. Then what do you plan on doing? Staring at me here and seeing who starves to death first. Don't fret. I'm already here. Shi Tianyi smiled faintly, and the space suddenly began to tremble slightly. Shi Tianhao scanned the surroundings with the senses of his soul. He could only vaguely sense that many things seemed to have suddenly appeared in the space, but they were not spiritual qi or magic power. Let alone the naked eye, even the senses of his soul struggled to capture them. Are you trying to attack me with soul techniques? All of Shi Tianhao's vital energy and blood began to burn. A faint layer of red light appeared on his body, illuminating the surroundings to the point where even ghosts and gods struggled to approach him. Powerful martial cultivators possessed vigorous vital energy and were as scorching as the sun. Their souls were tightly connected to their powerful bodies, making them extremely difficult to shake. They could also effectively suppress soul techniques. However, with this illumination, Shi Tianhao immediately squinted his eyes slightly. This was because there were actually hundreds or even thousands of phantom-like figures drifting about in the surroundings. The faces of the phantoms all resembled Shi Tianyi. In the eyes of the spectators, even a group of soul transformation powerhouses frowned. Every single person had a soul, and they only had one. However, Shi Tianyi had actually conjured thousands of souls. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.